heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Almighty God, who in thy wisdom and goodness hast appointed the office of rulers and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of men and women, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us, thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in these islands. Let thy blessing descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of these islands and those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge. And this we beg for Jesus Christ's sake. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen.
Morning, members. The House is now in session. Clerk, you ready? Okay. Good morning. Members, the minutes from the sitting of the 7th of November have been circulated. Are there any amendments required? There are none. The minutes will be confirmed as printed, rather. Messages from the governor? There are none. Announcements? We have received notification from the following two members that they'll be absent today. The Honorable Premier and the Government Whip are both absent today. Messages from the Senate? There are none. Papers and other communications to the House? There are two papers this morning. The first is in the name of the Minister of Health. Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to attach and submit for the information of the Honorable House of Assembly the 2021 Bermuda Hospital Board's annual report.
Thank you. Minister of Labor and Economy and acting Premier for today. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to attach and submit for the consideration of the Honorable House of Assembly the Statistics Census of Population and Housing Order 2025, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for statistics in exercise of power conferred by Section 5(3) of the Statistics Act 2002.
Thank you. Petitions? There are none. Statements by ministers and junior ministers. We have 4 such statements this morning. The first is in the name of the Junior Minister of Finance, Minister Furbitt. Junior Minister.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Unfortunately, I'm acting today, so.
Okay, well, you read the statement.
Mr. Speaker, there's a powerful truth that guides compassionate societies. We measure our strength not by the wealth of the fortunate, but by the care we extend to those experiencing life's most challenging moments. It is in these moments when families are grieving, when stability is shaken, when uncertainty looms, the government must step forward with clarity, fairness, and humanity. Today, Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak to an issue that touches the very heart of Bermudian families. The financial vulnerability faced by surviving spouses following the passing of an elderly loved one. For many seniors in Bermuda, the land tax exemption they received after age 65 is not merely a financial convenience. It is part of what allows them to age with dignity, remain in their homes, and maintain financial stability in their later years. But Mr. Speaker, when the senior passes away, the exemption ends immediately. Suddenly, their surviving spouse, who is often of similar age, limited income, or frail health, is confronted with an unexpected and sometimes overwhelming land tax bill if the property is not in their name. Let's be clear, at a time when a spouse is dealing with grief, funeral arrangements, legal applications, and the emotional weight of loss, the last thing they should face is the fear of not being able to stay in their own home. And yet, for many families, probate can take months, even years, before the estate is legally transferred. During that time, the surviving spouse has no access to the state's assets, but are suddenly responsible for the full land tax burden. Mr. Speaker, this is not aligned with Bermuda's value. It is not reflective of fairness or compassion, and it's not what we as a government expect our people to face during life's most painful chapter. The Land Tax Relief Act 1968 and the Land Valuation and Tax Act provide broad authority to the tax commissioner to grant relief where hardships exist. This legal framework, intentionally designed with flexibility, empowers the commission to respond to genuine need and evolving circumstances without requiring amendments to the law. Today, Mr. Speaker, the government is utilizing this existing authority to implement a new administrative policy that protects surviving spouses during the probate process. Effective immediately and administered under the existing provisions of the law, a surviving spouse who resides in the property as their primary resident will be eligible to receive land tax relief for up to 24 months while probate is being complete. This policy is granted in existing statutory authority. Section 38 of the Land Tax 1967 provides for concessionary land tax treatment for qualifying individuals, and Section 37 of the Land Tax Valuation and Tax Act, which empowers the tax commission to postpone the due date of land tax for a good cause. This relief ensures that no spouse is penalized because the estate remains tied up in legal procedures, prevents unnecessary financial distress or risk of displacement, maintains continuity with the age-based exemption previously granted to the deceased senior, offers stability, predictability, and dignity to grieving families. Mr. Speaker, there are spouses who currently are in this situation and owes funds due to current policy. The Office of Tax Commissioner will make adjustment during the review. However, I would encourage any spouse that falls within the new policy and owes funds to contact the Office of the Tax Commissioner. This is not merely an administrative step. It is a recognition of the reality facing many households in Bermuda. When a spouse dies, the survivor often faces, like I said, reduced household income, increased medical or funeral expenses, emotional trauma, and a lengthy probate process during which they have no access to estate funds. To burden a spouse with an unexpected land tax liability during this time is neither fair nor humane. This policy ensures that the home, the center of security and stability, is protected as the family navigates loss and uncertainty. Mr. Speaker, this government remains committed to ensuring that our laws and policy reflect the value of our people, fairness, dignity, and compassion. Through this new policy enacted under existing statutory authority, we close a gap in the system that has long caused unnecessary hardship, I said, for surviving spouses. We do so without delay, without the need for legislative amendment, and with a clear commitment to protect Bermudans when they need it most. In closing, Mr. Speaker, this government stands firm in its resolve to serve with empathy and integrity. By extending land tax relief to surviving spouses for 24 months during probate, we ensure that Bermudians are not punished for circumstances beyond their control. This is compassionate governance. This is responsibility governance. And this is the kind of leadership that strengthens our island community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Junior Minister. The next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Youth, Social Development, and Seniors. Minister, Mrs. Ferbert.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Mr. Speaker, I rise this morning very much pleased to share with my honorable colleagues about an exciting and progressive initiative, the Atlantic Child Advocacy Alliance. Mr. Speaker, you may recall that in September this year, the government of Bermuda and the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office entered into a formal agreement through a letter of intent that formalized the intention to closely collaborate for improving child advocacy services in the British Overseas Territories across the North and South Atlantic. The letter of intent was officially signed by Mr. Stephen Doherty, MP UK Minister of State for British Overseas Territories, on behalf of the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, and the UK government committing to facilitate the foundation of an Atlantic Child Advocacy Alliance with the Ministry of Youth, Social Development and Seniors on behalf of the Bermuda government. Mr. Speaker, as a foundation, Bermuda has made significant strides to ensure a sustainable, high-quality litigation guardian service in the long term. Key actions include the development of litigation guardian practice guidance and the strengthening of the relationship with the judiciary. The Atlantic Child Advocacy Alliance will now facilitate formal best practice training in litigation guardian services across the North and South Atlantic region, enhancing cross-jurisdictional capabilities. Supported by the financial commitment of the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office and the extensive knowledge and experience of consultant Anthony Douglas, OBE, Bermuda has taken the lead in creating a comprehensive litigation guardian framework, culminating in the establishment of the Office of the Litigation Guardian. This achievement is a testament to the government's vision and commitment to safeguarding children. It is one that should be celebrated by all of us. Bermuda stands as a model of excellence for British Overseas Territories throughout the Atlantic region, demonstrating what can be accomplished when commitment and collaboration align in pursuits of the best interests of our children. Mr. Speaker, this partnership emphasizes child safeguarding as an overriding priority. The UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, or FCDO, has commissioned Mr. Anthony Douglas, CBE, consultant on safeguarding, to steer the building of the alliance and has funded a consultancy from July 2025 through March 2026. Both the UK and Bermuda governments will work collaboratively to develop the Child Atlantic Advocacy Alliance for child advocacy services. This alliance will pool expertise from Bermuda and the Southern Ocean British Overseas Territories, namely the Falkland Islands, St. Helena, Ascension Island, and Tristan da Cunha. Mr. Speaker, this will be a reciprocal arrangement that aims to address the technical needs of each territory by facilitating the sharing of knowledge and expertise regarding litigation guardian services within a structured framework. The partnership builds upon the past 3 years of technical support provided to Bermuda by the UK FCDO, which was instrumental in shaping and strengthening Bermuda's litigation guardian services and culminated in the establishment of the official Office of Litigation Guardian in March of 2024. Over the past 3 years, joint efforts among the UK FCDO, the government of Bermuda, the Bermuda court system, and other stakeholders have been solution-orientated, focusing on developing initiatives in innovative approaches to enhance the understanding of the litigation guardian service. This collaboration has also promoted greater cooperation amongst all stakeholders to ensure that the best interests of our children are prioritized. Mr. Speaker, the initiative seeks to explore the capacity for child advocacy across the Southern Atlantic British Overseas Territories. For this purpose, child advocacy encompasses both lay advocacy and the children's guardian role into various forms. The smaller size of these territories compared to Bermuda means that the need for litigation guardian arises only occasionally. Therefore, litigation guardians and governments in these regions see value in establishing a link with Bermuda. For example, a litigation guardian from the Falkland Islands could be an option for assignment to a Bermuda case if Bermuda's capacity is limited or if specific circumstances make it more appropriate to involve a guardian from another overseas territory. Bermuda might reciprocate should this be possible and in the best interest of the child in question in other territories. Such exchanges will proceed only if collaborative advantage can be established, that is, the exchange is beneficial for both overseas territories. Mr. Speaker, as part of the Atlantic Alliance program, there will be virtual training sessions for 6 months for all overseas territories, which commenced in September and will continue until February 2026. The first training module focused on identifying and intervening on behalf of children and young people experiencing neglect. Overall, the outcomes of the training include establishing a practical model of reciprocity across the Atlantic overseas territories and mutual offer that can be accessed in the future as needed, developing updated litigation guardian practice guidance and practice direction for use in family cases in the Bermuda courts, thereby improving child-centered case practice, creating island practice standards for St. Helena and the Falklands, supporting the British Overseas Territory, St. Helena, in developing a lay guardian service, which has already been achieved. Mr. Speaker, as we have strengthened the litigation guardian framework in Bermuda, many valuable lessons can be learned from our experiences and established practices, best practices. While acknowledging that other British Overseas Atlantic territories face similar challenges and are at different stages in their safeguarding journeys, the Atlantic Child Advocacy Alliance represents a significant step forward in child safeguarding. Through formal partnerships, shared expertise, and a structured approach to training and best practice, this initiative will strengthen child advocacy and litigation guardian services throughout the Atlantic region by pooling resources, delivering targeted training, and fostering reciprocal support. The Alliance aims to ensure that every territory benefits from enhanced capability and cooperation, ultimately prioritizing the best interests of children no matter where they reside. In closing, Mr. Speaker, let me state that there is much work being undertaken to develop a sustainable quality litigation guardian framework for Bermuda, and specifically for our children so that their voices are heard. In February of 2026, I will be presenting the final litigation guardian practice guidance for Bermuda that the consultant is currently working on within my ministry to develop. I will also share about other initiatives that have been embedded in the litigation guardian program to continue to strengthen and support the services of the Office of the Litigation Guardian. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of National Security. Minister?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning, colleagues and the listening public. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to update this Honorable House on the series of public town hall meetings recently held on gun and gang violence, and to share with this House the voices, concerns, and ideas shared across our island. The aim of these meetings was clear: to listen directly to people, to understand their lived realities, and to ensure that the National Violence Reduction Strategy remains grounded in the perspectives of the communities that we serve. Mr. Speaker, honorable members will be aware that over recent weeks, public forums were held at St. Paul AME Church in Hamilton, Penrose Wharf in St. George's, and Dalton E. Tucker Primary School in Southampton. All three were well attended. People came ready to speak openly, passionately, and out of a shared desire to restore safety, unity, and hope across our island. What we heard, Mr. Speaker, were honest and forthright opinions. The feedback was constructive, community-minded, and focused on solutions. Across the three meetings, several consistent themes emerged from the community. The need for culturally grounded programs to support identity, especially for young Black males, including references to past initiatives such as the Ashe program. A strong desire for more youth engagement and for young people to be given a voice in shaping their own future. Calls to strengthen families, rebuild neighborhood bonds, and restore a sense of community belonging. Emphasis on life skills education, mentorship, and vocational pathways, including suggestions such as a trade school at the Casemates Museum, homework support in sports clubs, and a cadet program for inmates. Recognition that the root causes of violence include mental health, substance misuse, poverty, cost of living, and weakened family structures. Requests for stronger collaboration between the Bermuda Police Service and partner agencies, including improved coordination around vehicles and licensing, port security, and the use of technology. Calls to reinvigorate Bermuda history, diversify school curricula, and support identity building for young people. A desire for unity, trust building, community integration, and national alignment to replace fragmentation. Mr. Speaker, these suggestions will be considered for inclusion where appropriate, and I must emphasize that many of the ideas raised already appear within the existing National Violence Reduction Strategy. Concerns about supporting youth, mentorship, and prevention connect directly to actions already underway. The ministry has invested more than $540,000 in community organizations aligned with the strategy. We have supported several grants to sports clubs, youth mentorship programs, tutoring and vocational initiatives, and organizations providing trauma-informed care. These are deliberate investments designed to strengthen families, build identity, and create positive pathways for young people. Mr. Speaker, concerns around policing, safety, and enforcement are also addressed in ongoing work. The Bermuda Police Service is expanding recruitment, enhancing intelligence-led operations, and increasing its use of technology, including body-worn cameras. The BPS continues to improve coordination with partner agencies, strengthen port and border security, and use data more effectively to deploy resources. Mr. Speaker, the town halls also heard requests for greater transparency and ongoing community involvement. These town hall meetings are part of that commitment. The Ministry of National Security is enhancing public engagement and continue to partner with community, faith, educational, and social service organizations. The call to address root causes, including mental health, poverty, and family instability, aligns with the National Violence Reduction Strategy focused on early intervention, prevention, and reintegration. These priorities are already active pillars of the strategy. Mr. Speaker, the National Violence Reduction Strategy is guided by 8 core goals, and what we heard in the town halls aligns closely with each of them. At its foundation, the strategy seeks to build strong families and supportive relationships, reflecting calls for family stability, parental accountability, and stronger neighborhood bonds. The strategy aims to strengthen community cohesion and shared responsibility, echoing the desire to reconnect, rebuild trust, and move from fragmentation to unity. Mr. Speaker, we heard a strong push for more opportunities for young people, such as mentorship, sports, trades, vocational programs, and life skills training. This aligns with the goal of increasing positive opportunities for youth and adults. Concerns about reaching children early, addressing mental health challenges, and intervening before young people enter dangerous environments reinforce the strategy's focus on intervening early and effectively with individuals at risk. Mr. Speaker, public feedback also underscored the need for visible safety measures, strong enforcement, and secure borders. This aligns with the goal to disrupt violence and prevent harm. The call for structured reintegration, such as including cadet programs, support for inmates, and opportunities for reentry, reflects the strategy's commitment to support rehabilitation and reintegration. Mr. Speaker, requests for better coordination, smarter use of technology, and data-driven policing support the strategy's aim to use data, evidence, and technology to drive decisions. Finally, the strategy's goal to strengthen leadership, coordination, and accountability across the system matches the community's plea for unified national action. The alignment is clear. The public's feedback reinforces the strategy, and the strategy reflects the public's priorities. Mr. Speaker, one message rose above all others. We cannot fix this problem without each other. Government cannot do it alone. The police cannot do it alone. We also know that no single organization, school, or family can tackle this in isolation. Mr. Speaker, preventing violence requires mentors, coaches, and role models in every parish. Clubs and community groups opening their doors more widely. Neighbors reconnecting and checking in on one another. Families seeking support when they need it. Employers creating opportunities for young people. And all of us rejecting divisions and choosing unity. Mr. Speaker, I encourage everyone to read the National Violence Reduction Strategy online, understand its goals, and find a place where they can contribute. Every hand helps, every voice matters, every action counts, because safety is not simply a policy objective. It is a community responsibility. When we work together and for a common goal, we make this island stronger, more peaceful, and more harmonious. Mr. Speaker, I again thank every person who attended the meetings and every person who shared their views. Your insights will inform our work, strengthen our strategy, and help ensure that our collective approach is grounded in the realities of our communities. The work continues, and we continue it together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Economy and Labor. Minister?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Morning.
I rise to table the Statistics, Census of Population and Housing Order 2025, made in accordance with the authority granted under the Statistics Act 2002. The order formally declares May 20th, 2026 as Census Day for Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, a national census is one of the most important exercises undertaken by any modern society. It is the only process that captures comprehensively, uniformly, and reliably the full picture of who we are as a country. The census tells us how our population is changing, how our communities are evolving, and what our people need to thrive. In short, it allows us to fill the gaps between assumptions and evidence. This is why the theme for the 2025 census is appropriately Fill the Gap. Data collection for the 2026 Census and Population and Housing will take place from May 21st, 2026 to March 31st, 2027. The Statistics Act 2000 requires that a census of population and housing in Bermuda be taken in the year 2010, and from time to time thereafter, provided that, as directed by the order, a census is taken at least once every 10 years. The last census was conducted in Bermuda in 2016, and therefore the next census is scheduled for 2026. Mr. Speaker, the census is of critical importance to the government and the people of Bermuda. It is a comprehensive count of Bermuda's population and dwelling units and collects data on our geographic, demographic, social, and economic characteristics, making it a rich source of invaluable statistical information. Census data informs long-term planning for housing, healthcare, education, labor, transport, and social services. It identifies movements in our workforce, helps us to understand demographic trends, population growth, immigration, and shifts in housing composition, and can highlight inequalities that may otherwise remain hidden. Without accurate and complete data, we are essentially planning in the dark. Mr. Speaker, I want to stress that the success of the census and the quality of the information we produce from the data collected depends entirely on the participation of Bermuda's people. Every household, every family, every individual counts. When you participate, you help ensure that decisions being made today and for the future generations are rooted in real lived experiences of our community. Everyone's participation is how we can capture up-to-date data to support in-depth analysis and inform data-driven decision-making. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Statistics will undertake a robust public awareness campaign so that all residents understand how the census works, how their information is protected, and why their participation matters. As always, strict confidentiality provisions under the Statistics Act will ensure that personal information is safeguarded and used in aggregate only for statistical purposes. Mr. Speaker, with Census Day set for May 20th, 2026, next year's data collection for the 2026 Census and Population and Housing will commence on May 21st. Census data will be collected using various means, including online, telephone, or personal interviews. Mr. Speaker, a sample of the census topics that will be in the questionnaire next year include demographic characteristics such as sex, race, language, and religion, birthplace, immigration, health, marital status, economic activity, income, household members and visitors, dwelling characteristics, and immigration. Mr. Speaker, the census is our opportunity to fill the gap between what we think and what we know, between perception and reality, between outdated data and the needs of today's Bermuda. I therefore encourage every resident of Bermuda to support the 2026 census. Remember, Census Day is May 20th, 2026, and participate when data collection begins on the 21st of May, 2026. Together, we can build a clear and accurate picture of our island and help shape policies that reflect who we truly are. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, that brings us to the close of the written statements this morning. We'll now move on. The next item is reports of committees. There are none. We'll move on. The next item on the paper is the question period. And this morning we do have written questions that we dealt with before we deal with the questions from the statements that were given. There are 3 series of questions. 2 are oral response, and the third is for a written response. The first is in the name of the Shadow Minister for Finance to the Premier and Minister of Finance, and I think you've already been informed that we would like to have that deferred until the Premier is present so he can respond to it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am now informed suitably.
Okay, it'll remain on the order paper, but be dealt with when the Premier is present. Okay. The next question from the same member is to the Minister of Health. Member, would you like to put your question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Honorable Minister please inform this Honorable House whether any additional government financial grant or assistance to the Bermuda Hospitals Board may be needed to support the recent pay rise agreement between BPSU and the Bermuda Hospitals Board? Thank you.
Minister.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 18.4 to respectfully seek the leave of this Honorable House to defer my answer to the question now before this House. I wish to place on record that in accordance with the established Westminster parliamentary practice, it is recognized that ministers may defer providing a response when the information sought is not yet available, when cabinet deliberations are ongoing, or when disclosure at this juncture would be premature or potentially inaccurate. And I will undertake to provide a full and accurate reply to the honorable member and this House once cabinet has completed their deliberations and considerations of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Member, do you clear on the response? And that the decision hasn't been completed yet, so it'd be inappropriate to try and respond to it until the matter has been completed.
Thank you, Mr.
The minister
Speaker.
has given an undertaking that once it's done, she'll be prepared to respond to it. Okay, thank you, Minister. Members, and the next questions are the written questions. They are from MP Van Smith to the Minister of Education. MP, have you received your written responses?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Okay. Now we move on to the questions from the statements this morning. And the first statement this morning from the Junior Minister, Acting Minister for Finance. We have members who wish to ask you questions regarding the land tax relief. statement that was given. And the first is from the Shadow Minister for Finance. Member?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And we were quite pleased to receive the minister's statement. As I'm sure many people in this chamber know, that the probate and the land tax is a pressing matter for very many Bermudians. My first question is, given that this was talking about the land tax relief given to seniors over 65 years old, for which there is a regime of land tax relief, does the spouse receiving these benefits need to be 65 years or older? Thank you.
Minister? Acting Minister?
Yes.
Supplementary?
Second question,
Second question.
Mr. Speaker. Given that the purpose of this relief and policy, it comes down to the probate delays, which were talked about, can the minister provide any information about other initiatives or ways that the government is trying to reduce the probate delays, which, as was mentioned in the statement, can severely burden senior citizens and family members of deceased? Thank you.
I think the statement was just confined to that one item. And so the questions should be confined to that one item. It was just talking today about the relief. Yes, there could be other reliefs done, but it didn't speak to any other reliefs. It didn't reference to other reliefs that are currently being considered. It just spoke. If he had implied that they were considering other reliefs, then you have a leeway. But it didn't make that no implication of other reliefs being considered were contained in the statement.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I have a do-over on the second question, or shall we call it the third question?
Go ahead.
Now, could the honorable member tell us how many individuals they expect to be impacted by this policy change? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That's a fair question. Minister?
Oh, no, we do not know at this time, but whoever qualifies will benefit from it.
Thank you. Supplementary?
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, thank you. Minister, the member, the MP Robertson would like to put questions to you on the same matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I just wanted to know that if this is a hardship relief for someone who is going through a really tough time in their life, obviously losing their spouse, will the junior minister be able to clarify whether this is automatic or do they have to go through the application process to receive this relief? Thank you.
Thank you. Minister?
Good question. All they have to do is appear, because they would receive a tax bill. If they appear before the tax commissioner with a document saying the document is being probated, it will work from that perspective.
So there are steps that they have to take. Okay. Supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. If the property is tied up in probate, will this relief be able to be extended? Will there be any discretion for an extension until the probate process is completed for the property? Thank you.
Yes.
Further supplement or second question? Yeah, that was just supplementary. Second question?
Second question, Mr. Speaker. If the senior who has passed on did not apply previously for their land tax relief, because we see this happen a lot, that some seniors are not applying for their initial land tax relief, is the spouse of that senior still eligible for this relief?
Yeah, it is two separate issues, but if they're 65, then they'll qualify.
Okay. Any further questions? None? Thank you, member. The next member minister who has questions for you is MP Campbell. MP Campbell, would you like to put your questions?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is really around a point of clarity. The land tax relief is for, I just wanted to ask, is for all Bermudians who own their property and it's their primary residence, 65 years or over, irrespective of the value, the overall value of the property?
If you are a Bermudian and your house property is worth 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, you qualify.
Supplementary?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
a second question.
Second question.
I know you just mentioned this particular statement deals with the specifics of a spouse, but in a society where we're living longer, there are other variables, and just wondering is the government considering addressing those other variables, whereby a property will be left to someone, for example, a child who is 65 and over.
If the child is over 65.
Real life situation.
Yeah, I understand his question, and we've had discussions on that, but we want to start first with the spouses, and if time goes on, we can take a look and see whether it's within the boundaries that we're trying to deal with. But mainly right now, we want to make sure that the spouses is dealt with.
Supplementary?
Thank you. No, Mr.
Okay,
Speaker. Thank you.
Minister, MP Tucker would like to put questions to you as well. MP?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to my House colleagues and the listening audience. My question is very similar to what MP Robinson had asked. I would just like to know why a specific timeline was put on the relief. I think the relief is a good thing, but I think it could have said until probate is complete rather than saying a specific 2-year timeline. I'm just really trying to understand the thinking behind it, because as we all know, probate can take quite some time, and in some cases it's beyond that 24-month period. So I'm just wondering why a timeline was put on it originally. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you're aware, sometimes you put a date on something to make things rush ahead. And if it doesn't fall within 24 months, then they have the right to apply for an extension. That's fine. Let's go straight forward.
Supplementary?
I would like to know, yes, Mr. Speaker, there is a supplementary question. I would like to know what the application process will look like for those individuals who may have exceeded that 24-month period.
I think the question was already asked by one of your colleagues. And that was that all you have to do is appear before whoever the spouses have to appear before the land tax to show that the process is in probate, and they will just go like that.
Okay.
Thank you,
No
Mr.
further questions?
Thank you,
Good.
Mr. Speaker. I do have a second question.
Second question. Go ahead.
And I do thank the minister for that additional clarity. So my second question is, as it relates to what is at the core of this issue, and that is the probate delays. So I would like to know whether the ministry is collaborating with any other ministry, particularly the Attorney General's office, to address the backlogs of the probate process. As we know, it is quite lengthy. So just want to know if there's any cross-ministry collaboration on that point. Thank you.
Mr.
Mr. Speaker, this ministerial statement is strictly on what we're trying to do within the Ministry of Finance. But I'm sure this type of discussion will take place. We would like to get things. I'm sure the discussions have taken place. But right now, we know this is delayed. We want to make sure those spouses are not done things out of whack when they do pass on, or their spouse is still living.
Supplementary or new question?
Supplementary,
Go ahead.
please. Mr. Speaker, thank the minister for his response. If he can just provide some clarity, if there is currently discussion about perhaps speeding up the probate process, in particular, because we're having to give relief for things that we may not necessarily have to give relief for. The relief is great, but what are we doing to address, or what is his ministry doing to actually try to address the core issue? Because we're dealing with the symptom, not the core. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, that doesn't fall under the remit of the Ministry of Finance. We're responsible for collecting taxes. That's what I dealt with, but it falls on the Attorney General. You may want to take that up another place.
I think the question was, what are the two ministers? You're trying to put a relief in place, and we understand that the probate drags and drags. So trying to find out. The question was, is there any room for collaboration to try and get the process speeded up, because you're trying to help the seniors too? That's basically the question. And because you're not the substantive minister, you may not know what it is. So that would probably be something that you leave to the substantive minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know what the honorable member is trying to get at, but we are focused right now on giving relief to our seniors because of the death of one of the spouse, and there has been some discussions within with the AJ's chambers, and the discussion will still take place. Doesn't fall on our ministry, so whoever that will fall under, I'm sure they'll be hearing this and make that thing happen. But this has been going on for years, even when there was in government, and we probably have speed up for at least 5 days faster than them because we move things ahead. Not only UBP, on the OBA.
Members, let's stay on track. Okay. The next statement that has questions this morning is the statement by the Minister of Youth, Social Development, and Seniors. Minister MP Tucker would like to put questions to you.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. I think that the initiative that the minister had spoken about, I think it's potentially a really good thing for Bermuda. My question is, my question is, I would just like to know, so the islands that were mentioned as part of the collaborative effort.
Overseas territories.
Yes. I would like to know if the minister can say why they were chosen. And the reason I ask that question is because all of those territories have very tiny populations. And so I'd just like to know sort of the reason or the rationale behind why those territories were specifically chosen for collaboration with us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the honorable member has already answered her in question. The reason is because they are small jurisdictions and they require the support of another small state who has already strengthened their LG framework to assist. So the reason is because they are very small jurisdictions.
Supplementary.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the minister. So my supplemental question is, because of these islands and their very small populations, I would like to know sort of what specific benefit that will be for us. And the reason for that question is because, I mean, one of these islands has like 5,000 people, and a few of the others have a few hundred. So I just want to know what is the specific benefit that we will get, and maybe how many litigation guardians are in each of these jurisdictions that would make it beneficial for us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I did. What's beneficial in it for Bermuda is I've spoken about Bermuda leading as an overseas territory with the litigation guardian framework. And so Bermuda is seen as a role model for best practice for litigation guardians. So it is number one to be seen as a leader in this this area. And also on page 3 of the ministerial statement, I spoke about Bermuda's, the link of litigation guardians being an option for assignments if Bermuda's case capacity is limited or specific circumstances make it more appropriate to involve a litigation guardian from another overseas territory. So Bermuda also being a small jurisdiction, sometimes there can be conflict of interest with people knowing each other. And that would also be a benefit should we need it to have access to for Bermuda.
Thank you. Supplementary or new question?
A supplementary question, please, Mr. Speaker.
Go ahead.
Just if the minister can completely understand her response, I would just like to know what the population of litigation guardians is in those jurisdictions, just so that I have some understanding of how, how we can benefit from that. I can understand how the smaller jurisdictions will benefit from the use of our litigation guardians. But I would just like to know sort of the number of litigation guardians that would be potentially available to us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister?
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, I don't have that answer for I don't know what the litigation or the number of litigation in the other jurisdiction looks like. But a collective pool will definitely make a difference for Bermuda and the other jurisdictions.
Thank you. No further questions? Thank you, Minister. There are no questions. No other members have questions for you. We will now move on. The next statement that has questions is that by the Minister of National Security. Minister, the opposition leader would like to put questions to you.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, members of this honorable House, and the listening public. The question I have for the Minister of National Security, Minister Weeks, is which goals have been adjusted or expanded based on input from the public with these various town halls and other meetings?
Minister?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Opposition Leader. We have to be clear that most of the comments and feedback by the public that participated reinforces the National Violence Reduction Strategy. There were some other ideas and comments that were made that will be taken on board and see how we can implement them as we go along.
Supplementary?
Yes, good morning again. The supplementary question, what policies and programs will be fast-tracked as a result of public feedback and obviously research and analysis by the experts? Thank you.
Minister?
Thank you for that, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to reiterate that the National Violence Reduction Strategy came about by the public involvement and experts in the field. And what was reassuring to us during these town hall meetings was that we are definitely on the right track, because the public were reinforcing the goals that the National Violence Reduction Strategy has already implemented. And any of the comments or advice that was given by the public will be implemented in the National Violence Reduction Strategy as we go along and we continue to develop it. Because the National Violence Reduction Strategy is a living document. So as we go on, it is constantly development.
Second question?
No, Mr. Speaker. The minister didn't actually answer the question. The question was, what programs or policies will be fast-tracked as a result of consultation with the public and the experts? Thank you.
You restate that as a second question there. Okay. Go ahead.
Supplementary, sorry.
Yeah. Supplementary. Yep.
Mr. Speaker, if I could be a little more clear, nothing's going to be fast-tracked. The National Violence Reduction Strategy is a strategy that is ongoing, and we are implementing the 8 goals. So I encourage the opposition leader and other people listening to go online and read the National Violence Reduction Strategy, and you would see that a lot of the goals are being implemented as we speak.
You got a member behind you wants a supplementary. Yes?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Morning.
Supplemental off of that first question. Would the Honorable Minister be able to point out what are the initiatives that came out from the public that were different from what is being implemented currently, so that we can see what those changes would be?
Minister?
A few of the different ideas that came out were mentorship programs, perhaps a trade school up at Casemates was another idea, homework within our sporting clubs, and even a cadet program for our current inmates. So that's what I'm trying to say, that these suggestions, Mr. Speaker, will be assessed carefully and where appropriate, integrated into our ongoing work.
Supplementary?
Supplementary.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, so is the minister saying that the mentorship programs are not happening currently?
Mentorship programs are happening currently. What we heard in the meetings was not the current mentorship programs. They were talking about mentorship programs, perhaps in the prisons. That was just another idea that was given by our public, you know. But I encourage you, read the National Violence Reduction Strategy, and you will see that we have mentorship programs alive and well.
Opposition Leader, do you want to continue your questions?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Second question.
Second, sure.
Understanding that $540,000 is being allocated to organizations as part of the National Violence Reduction Strategy, would the minister be able to provide us with a breakdown on the organizations, the amount of monies per organization, and what the measurable outcomes are for each organization? Thank you.
Did you have numbers in there? Did you have numbers included in your statement today? Okay. Yeah.
I just gave a total of $540,000 that we have given to different organizations and sporting clubs, but I have no problem bringing that back again for this honorable House.
What the reason I asked you, because I missed the number that you actually gave a number. The fact that you gave a number gives open for the member to ask a question. So the question is a legit question because the number was. I was about to ask him to say that the question may not have been legit because I missed the fact that you'd given a figure. But the fact that you gave a figure, the question is justifiable, so you can respond to it.
Respectfully, Mr. Speaker, I've given the breakdown of this here before, and I will definitely bring it again. I don't have it before me, but I will definitely bring it for the honorable member and for this honorable House.
Thank you. Supplementary or third question?
Supplementary.
Okay.
How will this question is in reference to performance? How will performance
So the supplementary should be related to that question around the funding. So you can go to a third question out of this one if it's not related to that.
Fair enough. Thank you, sir. How will performance be measured? And supplemental would be, will the minister commit to publishing an annual public report on expenditures, program outputs, and violence reduction outcomes as well in relation to money spent on these programs to make sure that we're getting good value for taxpayers' dollars? Thank you.
Okay, just for clarity, what was the first question, Opposition Leader?
How will performance be measured?
We have a team in the Ministry of National Security that is monitoring the monies that we give to these organizations, and they have been monitored closely, and performance is being measured because they have to, everyone that has monies from our grant program, they have the duty to report to us, I think, once a quarter. And that way we are able to monitor how the monies are being spent. And over time, we can measure the how well the money has been spent.
Supplementary?
Supplementary. Will the minister commit to publishing an annual public report on expenditures, program outputs, in particular violence reduction outcomes as a result of the $540,000 given to the organizations for that very purpose? Thank you. That's my final submission. Thank you.
I will take that under advisement and it will be considered.
Yep. Okay. Supplementary? Yes, supplementary.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the minister be able to provide for us what the performance indicators are that are being measured?
Well, a lot of the money, Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The monies that are being given are mostly to sporting
Supplementary? No, fine. Thank you. Minister, that's the last of the questions for you. Members, we'll move on to the final statement this morning. And Minister of Labor Economy, members do have questions for you. Shadow Minister of Finance, you're the first up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. We did see in the minister's statement that immigration status was one of the topics to be investigated by the census. And my question to the minister is, will there be any initiative to canvass Bermudians who live overseas? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
The Bermuda Population and Housing Census is a census of current residents.
Supplementary.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My supplemental question is then, would it be fair to conclude that this census will not provide us any information about how many Bermudians have emigrated? Thank you.
Minister.
If he concludes that, that means his conclusion will be 100% incorrect. The census will collect immigration data. We would not be able to interview the individuals that left, but our population levels, we will certainly get a better count of our population levels and have an understanding of those persons who have emigrated.
Second supplemental, Mr. Speaker. Could the minister, given that the minister has stated the census won't plan to canvass or be in contact with people who have emigrated, could the minister please elaborate for this House how this census will help them understand why those people have emigrated? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the purpose of the census is not to get the qualitative reasons as to why persons have emigrated. The Ministry of Economy and Labor has already conducted a robust study to identify and tabled that report in this House that identifies why persons have emigrated. So we are abundantly clear on the factors that have led persons to emigrate from Bermuda. If we need to get more robust information regarding that at a future date, we will conduct that survey that gave us excellent data as it pertains to the factors leading persons to emigrate.
Second question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could the minister confirm that the government currently has no further plans to investigate why people have emigrated Bermuda?
I don't know if that's actually in the, that probably isn't related to the statement itself right now. The statement itself was just inform you that the census will take place and when it will take place and those parameters. But so the question is probably outside the parameters of the statement.
Third question, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Could the minister please elaborate on how the census will identify and locate unhoused individuals to get information about them? Thank you.
Thank you.
The census uses a number of different methods, including persons who are vagrant on the streets. You have interviews, approach those persons. Deliberate, you also have utilizing institutionalized individuals and seeing going through the institutions themselves. And so there are a number of various ways in which we can capture that information. And so this is why we have various different collection methods. The primary collection method would be the e-census, and we encourage as much residents as possible to take advantage of the e-census. Then we'll do telephone interviews. That would be the next phase after the e-census. When the telephone interviews are then done, we will do face-to-face interviews. And so we'll use all the tools within our remit to ensure that we get robust data.
Thank you. Supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the minister advise if those tools will involve site visits to areas where unhoused people are known to be, for example, sleeping rough? Thank you. Such as Horseshoe Bay and things like that. Thank you.
The question is, will the census collection go to places that aren't residents, where people are sleeping in cars and things of that nature?
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
That's correct. The non-shelter population, we will try.
That's the word.
Yes, that's what we refer to them as. The non-shelter population has a specific set of questions. If you look at the order, and we will use every method underneath our disposal to try to get those persons interviewed.
Okay. This is further supplementary or fine? Thank you. Minister, there's another member, MP Campbell. Would you like to put your question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the minister, the collection period is May 21st, 2026 to March 31st, 2027, approximately 10 months. Is the minister confident that the ministry will be able to meet the target of reaching out to everyone that they wish to contact?
Minister?
Yes, we have all confidence that we will be out of the field by the stated date.
Supplementary?
Yes, a supplementary. How will that be tracked? Are there monthly targets? Because what you don't want to do is get to month number 10 and then realize you're not going to reach your targets. So the first supplemental would be, how is that being tracked before an alarm or red flag goes off?
Understood.
So the response rates somewhat trigger these stages. So you do the e-census. You see the response rate of the e-census. If you don't get your full response rate from the e-service census, then you move on to telephone interviews. When you're not getting your full responses from your telephone interviews, then you go to face-to-face interviews. And so the Department of Statistics has they use methodology as to how they progress through the stages. And so, yes, we will be keeping track of response rates per stage.
Supplementary?
No, a second question.
Second question?
I
Go
thank
right
the
ahead.
minister for that answer. The collection of data is due to end March 31st, 2027. Assuming we meet that target, when will the results be made available to the public?
Understood.
The census report in its entirety is typically issued within a 2-year period. However, we should have preliminary data by the end of 2027. And so we could have several data sets that we can utilize, but the full census report, which is robust and comprehensive, will be within a 2-year period.
Thank you. Any further supplementary? Or further
No,
questions?
no further questions. Thank you.
Members, that brings us to a close of the question period for this morning. And thank you for your participation. We'll now move on to the order paper. The next item on the order paper this morning is congratulatory and obituary speeches. Would any member wish to participate? MP Swan, I see you rose to first in the back. Would you like your 3 minutes?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Go right
Thank you.
ahead.
Mr. Speaker, on a sad note, I would like condolences to be expressed to the family of the late Miss Cleta Aswood, who for many decades lived in Ferry Reach, St. George. And she's survived by my good friend, Mr. Quentin Aswood, and her children and grandchildren. And may she rest in peace. Also, the family of Mr. George Pope from St. George. His daughter Audrey is a constituent. I knew Mr. Pope when he lived on Shinburn Alley many years ago. And I offer condolences to that family as well. And also to the family of Miss Sonia Grant, who's, and I know I can associate member Ming with all of those condolences, and I'll associate the whole House with Ms. Grant in particular, Mr. Speaker, her late sister, Ms. Michelle Simmons, the long-serving long-serving principal at Berkeley, but Ms. Grant was served on the Corporation of Hamilton as well as being an attorney. Mr. Speaker, on a much more positive note, I would like to have congrats expressed to the chairman of the Bermuda Government Golf Courses, former Member of Parliament, Mr. Jason Wade, and his team for an outstanding, and I associate the minister responsible for tourism, transport, culture, and sport, and with that, the House for an outstanding display of Bermudian spirit, having a course in pristine condition to host Bermuda's largest international sports tourism event, the Butterfield Bermuda Championship, for its 7th year. In that, I can't let it go without saying that I would like to express gratitude to former Premier Dr. the Honorable Hewitt Brown, because it was his vision that took the course that I grew up on, which was a world-class course developed in 1970, and transformed it into a made-for-television event that since that time in 2008 has hosted 6 PGA Tour Grand Slam of golf. It brought the major champions. And when they moved over to California and then became defunct, has hosted the PGA Tour for 7 years. It's a major accomplishment, and I would like to say thank you.
Member. Time is up. Any other member wish to make a contribution at this time? MP Simmons.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to request that the Honorable House send condolences to the family of the late Ceceline Elizabeth Deal of number 4 Grace Lane, Pembroke East. Mr. Speaker, I declare my interest. She was my cousin by virtue of the fact that our grandmothers were sisters. Mr. Speaker, Colleen, or Tiny as she was affectionately known, trained in the UK as a nurse and returned home to work at the King Edward Memorial Hospital for over 30 years. She was kind and compassionate, Mr. Speaker, and completely dedicated to her calling in caring for the elderly at the hospital. Most recently, Mr. Speaker, I was in the Dominican Republic visiting with my family and enjoyed a full afternoon of acquaintance with cousin Colleen. Warm social events that will long be remembered. Mourning her passing is her son Jamal Deal, brothers Major Kenneth Deal, Major Barrett Deal, Wellington, Erdley, Arthur Francis Deal, and sisters Elva May and Pearlie Laquita Deal, together with a host of family members and friends of the Deal Binns clan, the entire North Village community, and indeed the wider community here in Bermuda, in England, and in the Dominican Republic. I asked also associate with that the minister, the whole house, the entire house, Mr. Speaker, in the Dominican Republic. May she rest in eternal peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. MP Pearman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to pay tribute to Dr. Eugene Harvey. Tribute was paid on the last occasion by this Honorable House, in particular by the Honorable Premier, who noted that Dr. Harvey was the doctor who delivered him when he was born. And also tributes were paid by the Honorable Opposition Leader. I was not in the chamber at the time, and I'm grateful for you giving me this very brief to be associated. Indeed, Dr. Harvey's a relative of mine. He went away to England to study medicine at the tender age of 13. When he came back 9 years later, which was in the late 50s, 1958 or thereabouts, he remarked that there was just one gynecologist in Bermuda and no pediatricians. So he was really a trailblazer. And I'll just share one personal anecdote, Mr. Speaker, if I may. When I was chatting with him, I said he's been working as a doctor delivering babies for so long, he must have delivered hundreds of Bermudians. He corrected me and said, no, it was thousands. And I said, how many? And indeed, he said probably over 3,000 Bermudians were delivered by Dr. Harvey. There's much more that can be said about him and has been said about him, but I'm very grateful for the brief opportunity to pay tribute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No problem, no. Minister, Minister behind you jumped up first, Minister Weeks. Mr. Darrell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I hope I'm not overstepping here, but as the minister responsible for sport, I wish to congratulate a group of individuals, organizers, executive producers that are behind what has become known in the last couple of years as the Clyde Best Project. And I will associate
Hill House. The Hill House.
the Hill House, thank you, with that. Yesterday evening, in the lovely area of Somerset, Mr. Speaker, I had the opportunity to attend kind of what they dubbed the world tour announcement of this project, which is nearing its completion and nearing the place where the entire world will get to know the story that we have become to know and love regarding our beloved Clyde Best. And I want to congratulate the organizers of this project. I want to organize the community partners. I want to organize the sponsors and organize
Recognize.
What did I say? Sorry, recognize the Ian was here. Recognize the sponsors. In addition to the event that they had last night, you would see in the Daily there were some beautiful pictures of a mural that is a striking mural right on the corner of Somerset Road there as you're heading to Cambridge of Clyde Best. And I encourage anyone that does not get up to the West regularly to please go up there and see this tribute that has been placed there for all to see. So again, I want to congratulate all involved in this project, and I look forward in what will be a huge year for football around the world, as it is the 2026 World Cup in an area close to where we live. I look forward to everyone around the world becoming familiar with this Clyde Best story and the exposure that Bermuda will get through that story around the world. So thank you. Also, in the few seconds that I do have left, I want to do something that may be outside the realm of normalcy here. And I want to congratulate the staff and the workers of the Marine and Ports Department. And you may say, well, they were doing their job. But you would recall that a week ago, some in this house did have the opportunity to attend the unveiling of 2 new fast ferries. And then subsequently to that, they had the opportunity to showcase these ferries to the public with free rides on the Saturday. And I just want to congratulate them for the excitement and the enthusiasm they brought to unveiling this project to the public. It definitely showed in their work. It showed that they are proud of the work that they do. And we look forward to great things to come, continue from that department. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Minister Weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to start off on being associated with the obituary remarks for Miss Colleen Dill. I came up around that family as a youngster there up on Glebe Road and Pigsfield. Mr. Speaker, I also would like to be associated with the remarks from Miss Sonia Grant, because before she became an illustrious lawyer and consul in the city of Hamilton, she was a teacher, and she was one of my teachers up at the Berkeley Institute. I believe she taught me English. Yes, I speak well proper English because of Miss Grant. And on you like that one? Like you can tell, I skipped some my share of classes, but I skipped my. but moving on, Mr. Speaker, we really will miss Miss Grant. You know, she's very beloved up at the Berkeley Institute. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to say a word of congratulations to an amazing couple, Mr. Speaker, to whom some of us will be familiar. Steve Conway, a recently retired supervisor within Public Works, and his lovely wife, Carolyn, a recently retired and beloved educator. Steve and Carolyn Conway are hosting their art show at the Bermuda Society of Arts, which is at City Hall starting tonight on this evening, the 21st, through to December 6th. So congrats again to Mr. and Mrs. Steve Combe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. MP Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to associate myself with the condolences for Mrs. Sonia Grant. In my previous life as a reporter, I interviewed her several times. She's a lovely woman, very accomplished, and somebody that I always looked up to. I'd also like to associate the condolences with for Dr. Eugene Harvey, and I'd like to send condolences to the family of Donnie Monis of Southampton. Donnie was a longtime employee of Belco, and he retired several years ago. His funeral will take place this afternoon. Thank you.
Yep. MP Lister.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Morning.
Good morning to the listening audience. First, I'd like to associate with the comments of the Clyde Bass documentary. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the event last night, but it's an honor to recognize Mr. Bass for his legacy of, as the title of the documentary is Leveling the Field. You know, he went as a Bermudian, first of all, but also one of the first Black professional football players and breaking the barriers of racism. And to come from a small island from Bermuda, you know, we continue to, as small as we are, punch above our weight. So I just want again to organizers, the producers, to recognize and congratulate them. But I also just want to mention one person who's overlooked, the young Bermudian, Mr. Tyree Fubler, who played young Clyde Bass in the documentary. He's also a member of the Somerset Cricket Club Trojans. So I want to recognize that. But, you know, he plays an important part to, he plays an important part to portray young Mr. Bass. And I want to congratulate him on that. Also, I want to associate with the comments of the mural up in Somerset on Manchester Street. I want to recognize the artists that painted the mural, Mr. Taekwon Utley, Mr. Aleem Sheed, Mr. Doran Simons, and Miss Barbara Dillis. You know, the artistry and the work recognizes, and it's a great recognition of Mr. Bass, but also to brighten up and bring some color to the community in that area. So I want to thank them for that. And as usually, I like to recognize Bermudian athletes participating around the world and representing Bermuda. I just want to recognize Mr. Campbell Pettin in sailing. Recently, he won the New South Wales and Australia Capital Territory State Championship for the 4th time. And in this particular iteration, he won 2 of the 3 races. So I want to recognize him for the work in representing Bermuda and doing us well. Associate the whole house for that. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want to recognize Lady Miss Erica Bassett. She will be recognized in December, but she has been recognized as one of the 100 most influential people to watch. She is a senior commissioner in the NHS in London, but also she is a former classmate of mine at Bermuda Institute. So I want to recognize her. And the event will be held on December 6th in Atlanta. So if you can watch or anyone, I encourage you to watch. But again, it's another Bermudian being recognized for the work and one of the 100 most influential people to watch. So again, Bermudians are doing us proud, not only locally, but internationally. So thank you, Mr. Bassett.
Thank you, MP. Minister Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to associate myself with the words for Mr. Clyde Bass. I'd also like to congratulate yourself for the part that you played in ensuring that Sir Clyde Bass was recognized as he was. Sometimes it takes things to happen to you to realize how significant the things that we're celebrating are. And it was earlier this year, I was away on a conference, and I happened to be in a hotel waiting for my guests, or waiting for the people I was meeting to come, the government officials I was meeting with. And there was Rio Ferdinand, a well-known soccer player for Manchester United, was sitting in this lobby with me. And I reached across and I said, "Hello, Rio, I'm a Manchester United fan, blah, blah, blah." And he said to me, "Your accent, where are you from?" And I said, "Bermuda." And he said, "Do you know Clyde Bass?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, really, you know Clyde Best? Like, he was so impressed the fact that I actually knew this man. And he went on to talk about how he couldn't have had his career if it wasn't for someone like Clyde Best. So the fact that someone from Bermuda is recognized worldwide, more so than he is actually recognized in his own country, is really telling on how we do not treat our heroes as well as they could be treated. And I heard the speeches that were given last night at the event, and I do support that. You know, if we do make an application for Sir Clyde Best again, that it actually be accepted, and hopefully he is given that honor, especially for all of the things that he's done for Black football players throughout the European Union, starting with England, Mr. Speaker. I would also like to take this time to send congratulations, and I will associate the whole house to the Bermuda national soccer team that secured a 2-2 draw with Trinidad in their last World Cup qualifying match, Mr. Speaker, which ensured that our team did not finish that qualifying round without a point. They held their head high. They went out and played as well as best as they could and secured a 2-2 draw against a team that has been to the World Cup before. And so that is an achievement worth celebrating. That is an achievement worth celebrating, Mr. Speaker. And I hope us as a community can rally around our players and encourage them to even greater heights next time around. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah. Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Want to extend congratulations and associate the whole House with young Mr. Ralph Scott Jr., who recently signed on with the University of Tennessee. He is an up-and-coming basketball player who will be entering the NBA when he finishes his studies. Absolutely incredible young man, respectful, and he's an inspiration to both young and old in this country. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? MP Ming.
Mr. Speaker.
Good morning. Your mic on?
Sorry.
You're down the east, but we'd like to hear you up this
I just
way,
heard
too.
of East telling up west, but you know. This morning I'd like to send congratulations to Trina Seymour. She is a local author. She did her book signing last Saturday, and it was a Bermuda dictionary for children. And her stories are called Seymour Stories. And we just want to congratulate her because she's a Bermudian teacher, actually. She's now put out this Bermuda dictionary for all young people. And I encourage each and every one of us to support her in her efforts, not just her, but local artists on the Hill, Mr. Speaker, because she could be doing many things, but she thought about putting something out there that touches our young people and us in a cultural way as well. Associate MP Fogo with his comments. I'd also like to congratulate the newly appointed prefects at East End Primary School. I had the honor and privilege of attending their prefect pinning ceremony with the Minister of Education. Their theme this year was "Your attitude determines your direction." And I also want to make sure to give a big shout out to Makiba Stowe, who is the P6 teacher, and the criteria that these young people had to go through to be considered for prefect was nothing short of what we would have to do if we went for a job. And she actually said that she has it at that level because she believes in preparing her young people for the world. And so they had to do an essay. They went before a panel. They went before the school. So you know what? She definitely takes her role very serious. And I believe that in preparing our young people for what the future looks like, that is the direction that we should be going in. I'd like to associate MP Fogo with that as well. I'd also like to thank the Royal Artillery Association in St. George's. That's the RAA club. That's kind of how we would all say it. And St. Peter's Church as well, because they had their remembrance service on Sunday, November the 11th, down in the east end of the island, where we laid wreaths and attended service. And so I just want to thank these persons for continuing each year to organize and make sure that this event happens. I'd like to associate MP Fogo and MP Swarm with their comments. And then, Mr. Speaker, last but not least, I want to thank each and every person that has ever come on and walked with me on Saturdays on my St. George's Community Walk. We celebrated 8 years of walking. If you ask me what I've been doing 8 years ago, definitely would not have been walking, but I am appreciative of the group and the support and what we have. And I actually don't know the miles MP Swan, but we've walked just about everywhere, and I'm grateful for that. And we have a Christmas birthday walk, December 20th. I can see many members on my house that haven't attended. You have an opportunity to be there.
You didn't mention your summers and walks you do. Any member wish to make a contribution? MP Jackson, MP Tucker?
Thank you. Good morning. Just very quickly, I just wanted to say super duper congratulations to my granddaughter, who was just made head girl at Paget Primary today, Kaylin Tucker. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Thank you. Any other member wish to make a contribution this morning? Just stretching there, Minister? I thought you were trying to get up that time. Okay. Members, that brings us to a close of the congratulatory and obituary speeches. Before we move on, I'd just like to add my support to that was given to the Clyde Bass efforts that are being made to honor him in the right direction, meaning we all know what he's done for football in this country and around the world, particularly in the English football, and there's titles that should still be bestowed upon him. And we look forward to seeing that recognition coming in his direction soon. Put it like that. And I'll move on from there. And the next item on the order paper, matters of privilege, there are none. Personal explanations, there are none. Notice of motions for the adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance, there are none. Introduction of bills, there are 2 bills to be introduced today, both in the name of the Acting Minister of Finance, Acting Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm introducing the following bills for their first reading so that they may be placed on the order paper for the next meeting. The bills are the Corporate Income Tax Amendment Number 2, Act 2025, and the Tax Credit Act 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. No further bills to be introduced. Notice of motions, there are none. That now, members, brings us to the orders of the day. Now it is 11:30. Good. The first item on the order paper is the second reading of the company's prohibition of bearer shares and the nominees directors Amendment Act 2025 in the name of the Premier Minister of Finance, but I believe the Acting Minister will lead us in this one this morning. Acting Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill entitled the company's prohibition of bearer shares, nominee directors, Amendment Act 2025 be now read the second time.
Are there any objections? There are none. Continue.
Mr. Speaker, the bill before the House is the company's prohibition of bearer shares and nominee directors, Amendment Act 2025. This bill further enhances Bermuda transparency and beneficial ownership framework on legal persons through amendments to the Companies Act 1981 and the Limited Liability Company Act 2016. The amendments are aimed at preventing and mitigating the risk of misuse of bearer shares, warrants, and alternate directors, as well as providing further clarity on the prohibition of nominee directors in Bermuda and addressing record-keeping requirements for discontinued companies. Mr. Speaker, members will be aware that Bermuda is preparing for its 5th round mutual evaluation by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, which is scheduled to begin in October 2026. In 2018, Bermuda was assessed by the same body and was found to have a robust and transparent beneficial ownership legislative regime. However, in March of 2022, the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, strengthened the international standards on beneficial ownership of legal persons by amending Recommendations 24 to better prevent and deter the misuse of legal persons. Mr. Speaker, the objectives of this bill are thus twofold. Firstly, it seeks to ensure technical compliance with these revised Recommendation 24 standards issued by FATF in 2022. Secondly, the amendment seeks to address remaining recommended actions, which were detailed in Bermuda's last mutual evaluation report issued in 2020. This bill will thus aid in ensuring Bermuda is well prepared for its upcoming evaluation and that our regulatory framework continues to comply with evolving international obligations and standards. Mr. Speaker, I will now outline the 4 policy areas the bill addresses. Firstly, the bill amends the Companies Act 1981 and the Limited Liability Company Act 2016 to require that existing bearer shares and bearer share warrants be converted to registered shares within 90 days of the legislative enactment and details the required process for conversions. The issuance of bearer instruments has long been prohibited in Bermuda, with bearer shares having first been outlawed under provisions of the Companies Introductions by Registration Act 1917. The revised FATF standards, however, require stronger controls to prevent the misuse of bearer instruments given their ability to obscure beneficial ownership information. Mr. Speaker, the bill secondly amends the Companies Act 1981 to strengthen disclosure requirements for alternate directors by requiring that a company's register of directors record not only the alternate director's first name, surname, and address, but also specify that they hold the position as an alternate director and identify the director for whom they are appointed. This ensures that alternate directors are subject to the appropriate disclosure requirements. Mr. Speaker, thirdly, the bill augments the definition of director currently found in the Companies Act 1981 by adding a provision which explicitly prohibits nominee directors. The concept of a nominee director is not known in Bermuda, and this has been well noted in our international evaluation. However, in light of FATF's revised standard, it is necessary to reinforce this position. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the bill amends the Companies Act 1981 and the Limited Liability Company Act 2016 to require that companies discontinue to another jurisdictions appoint a local agent to retain their beneficial ownership register and records of account for a minimum of 5 years. From the date of discontinuance, the requirement to maintain records of account for 5 years after an entity ceases to exist arises out of the international standard on transparency and exchange of information on request set up by the Global Forum on Transparency and Exchange of Information for Tax Purposes. These requirements are already in place for liquidated and dissolved companies, and this amendment will apply the same standard to companies discontinued to another jurisdiction. Mr. Speaker, these amendments are technical in nature and are driven by Bermuda's effort to align its regulatory framework with global standards. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that this bill is intended to come into operation on assent, and that paragraph 4 of the explanatory memorandum contained in the bill as tabled was included in error. This is because earlier drafts include a 5th clause related to commencement of the bill, which proposed that this act shall come into commencement such date as the minister may, by notice in the Gazette, appoint. However, in subsequent rounds of review, this provision was deemed unnecessary and removed so that this bill would take effect on assent. The related paragraph was inadvertently not deleted from the explanatory memorandum. This will be corrected when the bill is prepared for the Senate. Mr. Speaker, the bill that we are debating today reflects Bermuda's ongoing commitment to cooperate transparency and compliance with international standards, and will aid in ensuring that Bermuda is well prepared.
Will you deal with this matter, please? You need to step outside, sir. Continue, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the bill that we are debating today reflects Bermuda's ongoing commitment to corporate transparency and compliance with international standards. It will aid in ensuring that Bermuda is well prepared for its 5th round mutual evaluation when it begins next year. Mr. Speaker, with those brief introductory remarks, I now present the bill entitled the Company's Prohibition of Bearer Shares and Nominee Directors, Amendment Act 2025, and welcome comments from other honorable members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Acting Minister. Would any other member wish to make a contribution? MP Pearman.
Thank you, and good morning again, Mr. Speaker. I thank the honorable member, Wayne Ferbert, Acting Finance Minister, for his presentation. Although I don't have any specific interest in this bill to declare, obviously, Mr. Speaker, when I wear another hat, that is in a lawyer working in this commercial space. And so this is a matter about which I have some experience and understanding. Firstly, let me assure the Honorable Acting Finance Minister that the OBA supports this bill, and we thank him for his presentation. Mr. Speaker, I won't be long, but I think it is helpful just to identify what the bill is doing. And I do have one specific question for the minister, and I've already identified what that question is for him to address. So, Mr. Speaker, the bill seeks to amend various bits of existing legislation to do four things. Firstly, it is going to effectively require any companies with bearer shares to ensure that those are converted to normal registered shares within a period of 90 days. And if there aren't, then they will be null and void. They will cease to exist and cease to be valid. Now, as the minister notes, Bermuda, in fact, did away with any bearer shares as long ago as 1970. And I think it is worth for both sides of this House to note that Bermuda was 55 years ahead of the rest of the pack in that regard. And so when it is said that Bermuda is not carrying its weight or ensuring that we are compliant with international best practice, that's a 55-year jump on the gun, I'd say. So well done to our island for that. That's the first point. And the second point of four is that companies which are going to discontinue, and for the benefit of the general public, that word really means just get on a plane and go elsewhere. They're going to move. So when companies are going to discontinue or move away from Bermuda, there will now be a requirement, and with your leave, Mr. Speaker, I just quote, that any companies, quote, discontinuing to another jurisdiction must appoint a local agent to retain the companies and limited liabilities companies' beneficial ownership register and records of account for a minimum of 5 years. So for 5 years, a locally appointed agent must retain both the beneficial ownership register and records of account. And we can understand why that is, because if the stringency of Bermuda's very careful and well-regarded company laws are too much for a company that doesn't wish to be here, and they move to some other less salubrious jurisdiction, well, then anyone looking to find out details will at least be able to come to us and for the next 5 years find out those details. So, Mr. Speaker, that's the second of the 4 points. The third of the 4 points is the prohibition of the appointment of nominee directors, and that is the matter. I have a question that I've already shared with the Honorable Minister, and I'll raise that in a minute. And the fourth is to require alternate directors to disclose additional particulars. And again, for the benefit of the listening public, what is an alternate director? Well, it's really just someone who stands in as a sub, right? You sub in like a backup quarterback or something like that. And it's quite a useful function because a lot of the people who are involved in directorships in Bermuda are obviously traveling the globe to try and beat the drum of Bermudian business and drum up business around the globe for us. And so if meetings are being held and one director is not here, the alternate subs in. And I would respectfully say that few would say that it is burdensome for any alternate director to have to register particular details. So those are the 4 things that we are doing in relation to this bill today. And if anyone were to say briefly, why are we doing these things? Well, the proposed legislation will continue to enhance Bermuda's existing reputation as a top-tier international financial center. And Mr. Speaker, the key here for Bermuda is to maintain balance. We must continue to ensure that Bermuda is recognized as a jurisdiction that is knowledgeable, flexible, and where it's easy to do business. And at the same time, we must continue to ensure that Bermuda maintains our reputation for international best practice. And our island is seen to be a leader in an increasingly competitive global marketplace. And historically, Bermuda has been very adept at striking this balance. So again, we in the opposition, the OBA, support the bill proposed by the Honorable Acting Minister of Finance, Wayne Ferbert. My one question for the minister, which I've already shared with the minister, but which I share with this honorable House, is this. Nominee director, it's a slightly variable term that can mean different things in different legal contexts. And indeed, in the broadest sense, the term a nominee could arguably include any or every director, because every director is a nominee director because they're always nominated or elected by someone to sit on the board. And so the reason I pose that question is that my understanding is the mischief that this legislation is seeking to prevent in relation to nominee directors is to prevent an ultimate beneficial owner from shielding himself or herself or itself from being seen to have any involvement in the company. And so that in that sense, the prohibition of nominee director is perfectly understandable. And so I just would invite the honorable minister to confirm my understanding that the mischief that we're seeking to prevent is some shadowy person or some person hiding in the shadows and putting someone up to pretend that person and not the person in the shadows is the director, and effectively to shield their identity. That's how I understand it, and I believe that's how the minister understands it. And just lastly, I do note the honorable minister has mentioned a change to the wording of the bill before us in the memoranda, and that it will commence on assent, and we certainly support that it commences on assent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me those brief words.
Thank you, member. Does any other member wish to make a contribution at this time? Any other? None? Acting Minister?
I would like to thank the honorable member from Paget for his kind words and also supporting this bill for the one Bermuda Lines that supported it. And the question that he had put forward, yes, that is true. What you have said, we agree with
that. Committee? Okay. Move us to committee.
Mr. Speaker, I now move it to committee.
Thank you.
Bill to committee.
Deputy?
Good morning, members. We are now in Committee of the Whole for the bill entitled The Company's Prohibition of Bearer Shares and Nominee Directors Amendment Act 2025. I call on the Junior Minister. Junior Minister, you have the floor. Acting Minister.
I was looking around for the person. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just an overview. As I said, this bill seeks to amend the Companies Act 1981 and the Limited Liability Companies Act 2016 to require, among other things, that existing bearer shares be converted to registered shares in companies and limited liabilities companies, and to require that exempted companies and exempted LLCs discontinue to another jurisdiction appoint a local agent to retain the companies and limited liabilities companies beneficial ownership register and records of account for a minimum of 5 years. The Companies Act 1981 is further amended to prohibit the appointment of nominee directors and require additional particulars be disclosed with respect to alternate directors. So Clause 1 provides a citation for the bill. Sorry, I was supposed to move clause.
Yes.
Sorry, I was supposed to move clause. I'm going ahead of myself. I move clause.
You would like to move that clauses 1 through to 3?
All the clauses.
You would like to move that clauses 1 to 3 be considered. Any objections to that? There are none. Continue, Minister.
Yeah, I'm sorry for not.
Yes.
So clause 1 provides a citation for the bill. Clause 2 amends the Companies Act 1981, the act in the question 2, by repealing and replacing the definition of director and inserting a new subsection 1A to explicitly prohibit the appointment of nominee directors. The act is amended by inserting a new section 53A that requires, among other things, that existing bearer shares be converted to registered shares within 3 months of the coming into operation of the section. Sections 92A and 92B of the act are amended to require additional particulars to be disclosed with respect to alternate directors relating to whether a director holds a position as an alternate and the identity of the director for whom the alternate director is holding the position. Section 132G and 123H of the Act are amended to require that exempted companies discontinue to another jurisdiction appoint a local agent to retain the company's beneficial ownership register and records of account for a minimum of 5 years from the effective date of discontinues, and to require that such an appointment and retention of the beneficial ownership register and records of account be contained in an irrevocable deed pool that is filed with the registrar. Clause 3 amends the Limited Liability Companies Act 2016, the Act, to insert a new section 85A to require, among other things, that existing bearer shares be converted to registered shares within 3 months of the coming into operation of the section. Section 97 and 98 of the Act are amended to require that exempted LLCs discontinue to another jurisdiction, appoint a local agent to retain the exempted LLC's beneficial ownership register and records of record for a minimum of 5 years from the effective date of discontinuance, and to require that such appointments and retention of the beneficial ownership register and records of account be contained in an irrevocable deed pool that is filed with the registrar. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Minister. Are there any other members who wish to speak to the clauses 1 through 3? There are no other persons who wish to speak to clauses 1 through 3. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the preamble be approved.
It has been moved that the preamble be approved. Hold on, Minister. We're seeing a discrepancy in the bill.
The minister did, in his statement, indicate that this was left by error.
Okay.
And it will be deleted in the Senate.
Okay, thank you. Continue, Acting Minister. You did move that the preamble be approved.
Right.
Are there any objections to that? There are none. Continue.
I move the bill be reported to the House as printed.
It has been moved that the bill be reported to the House as printed. Are there any objections? There are none, Minister. So moved.
Members, are there any objection to the bill entitled the Company's Prohibition of Bearer Shares and Nominees Directors Amendment Act 2025 being reported to the House as printed? There are none. The bill has been reported as printed. Thank you, members. That now brings us on to the second item on the order paper for today, which is the consideration of the Clean Air Amendment Regulations 2025 in the name of the Minister of Public Works and Environment. Minister?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Mr. Speaker, I move that consideration be given to the draft regulations entitled the Clean Air Amendment Regulations 2025, proposed to be made by the Minister responsible for the environment in exercise of the power conferred by Section 11 of the Clean Air Act 1991.
Continue, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, long before a complaint is filed, the impacts of air pollution tell their own story. Sometimes that story is written in a fine layer of dust on a neighbor's car. Sometimes it arrives as a harsh odor drifting across a backyard. And sometimes, Mr. Speaker, it is felt in the silence of families who have grown tired of reporting the same disturbances time after time. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to introduce the Clean Air Amendment Regulations 2025, which build on and strengthen the foundation set by the Clean Air Act 1991, ensuring it reflects today's environmental realities and scientific standards. These regulations equip government to address long-standing concerns and ensure that every Bermudian receives the protection they deserve. These regulations work in tandem with the Clean Air Amendment Act 2024, and both will commence simultaneously after a short transitional period, ensuring clarity, fairness, and effective enforcement from the outset. Mr. Speaker, maintaining clean air requires more than goodwill. It requires clear rules grounded in science. To that end, we are making Bermuda's legally enforceable limit values for key pollutants more stringent, aligning them with the aspirational targets of the UK and EU. These pollutants include fine particulates, nitrogen oxides, and sulfur dioxide. These limit values align with UK air quality objective target values and the US National Ambient Air Quality Standard. In doing so, Bermuda will exceed the international benchmarks that larger jurisdictions use while tailoring them to our small island context. These limits apply to all controlled plants, from generators to waste-to-energy facilities to spray booths, crushers, and industrial operations. Regardless of size or ownership, every operator is held to the same scientific standard. Mr. Speaker, odor also remains one of the most persistent environmental concerns across Bermuda. To address this, the regulations establish Bermuda's first scientific standard for measuring odor using a 5-to-1 dilution to threshold ratio, meaning that if an odor remains detectable after being diluted 5 times with clean air, it qualifies as a nuisance. 3 government officers have now been trained and certified in the UK as odor inspectors, ensuring that assessments are professional, consistent, and fair. If more than 2 nuisance odor events are confirmed within a 12-month period, the operator will be issued an emissions control order requiring corrective action. Mr. Speaker, through the Department of Environment and Natural Resources and BIOS, Bermuda now maintains a growing network of 1 large fixed reference method air monitoring station and 7 pole-mounted indicative sensors strategically placed near industrial areas. Monitors are already operating at Crow Lane, Prospect, Barclay Institute, Saltus, Whitney Avenue, Dockyard, and Southside, with more planned. For the first time, these regulations formally distinguish between reference method monitors, which are large, high-precision units that meet strict international standards, and indicative sensors, which provide real-time trends and early warnings and screening for if a larger station is required. Together, they give Bermuda a reliable, data-driven picture of our air quality. Where pollution exceeds limit values, enforcement action can now follow based on scientific evidence rather than assumptions or dispute. Mr. Speaker, I think it is worth noting that not all environmental impacts are invisible. invisible. Some can be seen and felt, such as dust, soot, fallout, and grime. That is why the Clean Air Amendment Act 2024 introduced statutory nuisance, a new tool designed to address large particle fallout that may not pose a respiratory risk, but still affects people's property and peace of mind. Under these powers, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources can investigate, issue abatement orders, and if necessary, bring matters before the magistrate's court where fines can reach $20,000 with daily penalties of up to $5,000. This is a fair, proportionate, and enforceable system that ensures every community has a clear avenue of recourse. Mr. Speaker, these regulations also expand the list of controlled chemicals requiring import permits, introduce a duty to report accidental releases of nuisance odor, reduce the allowable smoke opacity limit from 20% to 15%, and provide a 6-month transition period before full enforcement. These are practical measures guided by international research and public feedback. I must also mention that the government received 125 written submissions and comments, and also reviewed the 89-page research document submitted by the Bermuda Clean Air Coalition. These regulations reflect that consultation and strike a careful balance between public health, economic reality, and community expectations. Mr. Speaker, I want to be very clear. These regulations are not designed to punish any particular organization. This framework is about accountability, prevention, and responsibility, ensuring that controlled plants operate in a manner that protects the health and well-being of the surrounding community. The government's goal is not to penalize, but to set clear expectations, prevent harmful emissions, and encourage better operational practices across the board. Recent media reports make this point quite clear, where operators themselves acknowledge the issues and are beginning to take responsibility. Belco recently reported elevated levels of soot during the summer months, while at the same time highlighted some of their mitigating efforts. The operator of Greenland Dairy Farm also pledged to clean up its act and improve how it manages odor and waste. This shows that the message is getting through. Environmental responsibility is a shared duty, with the understanding that the government sets the standards and operators must meet them. Mr. Speaker, many Bermudians know these issues not from news articles or reports, but from lived experiences. For some families in Pembroke, soot on their patio furniture has been a monthly reality for years. For neighbors of the dairy farm, odors have interrupted dinners and gatherings and simple outdoor enjoyment. These Bermudians have been patient, they have been persistent, and they have been heard. While these regulations will not undo years of frustration, they represent a real legislative step forward, a framework that finally gives government the legal tools to support them and ensure their concerns result in action. Mr. Speaker, I must also be candid. Passing this act and these regulations will not by themselves solve every air quality issue in Bermuda. Legislation sets the standards, but results come from operators taking responsibility every day. Cleaner operations, proper maintenance, investment in equipment, reduction of odor releases, and responsible waste management. These are the actions that will ultimately deliver the clean air Bermudians deserve. The government has a role, regulations have a role, But the greatest impact will come when operators take ownership of their environmental footprint. And Mr. Speaker, we are beginning to see that shift. And so as I close, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that Bermuda is a small island. When emissions cross one boundary, they cross into someone's life, their home, their garden, their health, their peace of mind. With these regulations, the government is drawing a clear line that every Bermudian has a right to clean air. Every operator has a duty to protect that right. And this government has the authority and the determination to uphold it. These regulations bring fairness, transparency, and modern science into our environmental protections. They give government the tools to respond quickly and decisively, and they ensure the communities are no longer left without recourse. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Does any other member wish to speak? MP Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Mr. Minister. Just a couple of questions. We obviously do support the extension of the Clean Air Act to solve some of the other issues that are affecting the communities. I do have a couple of questions. Much of the environmental regulations are extracted from either the US, the UK, or the European regulations. My question is, what, if any, efforts are made to localize what we're borrowing from other jurisdictions to make sure that we're right-sizing them to fit the issues that we have here? The other question I have is that the controlled plants listed in this legislation do not include farms. Maybe I'm missing something, but you did mention Greenland farms, and I'm just wondering under what control plant would they be considered? The other thing that has come up is the question of people suffering from the effects of people roasting coffee, which apparently is considered a nuisance, and that's not included in here either. I guess my question is, how will, particularly in terms of the nuisance odors, how will this be monitored and how will it be enforced? I know you said that there are 3 trained individuals who can monitor. How do they go about doing that? Thank you.
Any other member wish to make a contribution at this time? Member, let me just one quick. Member, will you finish with your contribution? Because we're in the House, which means you won't get a second chance.
Yes, those are my questions. Thank you.
Just
Yes.
making sure. All right. Opposition leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Understanding that there have been long-standing issues with Greenland Farm as relates to odors and sewage runoff, I'm not sure if I heard correctly or not whether a monitoring station was going to be placed near that farm operation. Thank you.
MP Swan.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for bringing this Clean Air Act. I have a responsibility to my constituents to speak somewhat briefly on this matter, because as it comes to the matter that was raised, odor, I believe I've received as many calls, probably not as many as someone who might represent a Pembroke constituency, as it relates to emissions that cause them problems. But the origin of the emissions, the fuel delivery, happens in my constituency, and constituency number 2 in St. George. And I've been reliably told by a layman who has worked most of his life, retired now, ironically enough, this ministry now comes under works, of which when I first came back to Bermuda, I'm very familiar with works, and I'm very familiar with the good work done by the executive staff. And very fond of the permanent secretary who I see sitting here, and I acknowledge the presence of permanent secretary and the policy analyst who has very close connections to this house. Very proud of that young man and his team. It's here. But I just have to preface those complimentary remarks to say that as you have, and this is a question for the minister, as you have one of the largest industrial ministries presiding over clean air, how is that working out? Because obviously Tynes Bay falls under, and the development and the redevelopment of Tynes Bay falls under the ministry responsible of works, and the emissions of Tynes Bay carry themselves. And I don't live close enough and to know if there's any odors associated, but certainly clean air falls under that category. There are persons that say that the prevailing winds from Tynes Bay, certainly I'm on a direct line in my place of work, and as I know where I ply my trade, I don't work there, but I ply my trade in Paget and Newstead and in Belmont area. I know the trade winds come from north and come directly across the harbor and would go right and follow the tribe road. The tribe road would come right up Chapel Road and go right over by to the South Shore. So anybody in that line could see that those trade winds take that right over. And in the evening time, sometimes when I work, I will look and I will see the emissions coming up. But I go back to the odor and the origins of the odor. And and I want to say one of my constituents who spent 30 plus years working in works in engineering, and many a layman, many a person who worked in engineering as electrical persons, plumbing persons, have a very acute understanding, notwithstanding the degrees behind the name, have a very acute understanding of some very technical issues. This constituent has pointed out to me that the quality of the fuel impacts the amount of emissions that are emanating. And he can always tell, and he can always write, because he writes very well, to share with me some of the concerns that he has of the burning of eyes, not only that are associated with the quality of fuel, of when it's being transported from the tanker into around the island. So I felt it my responsibility, as we're talking about the Clean Air Act, to want to express concern on behalf of constituents who in the Ferry Reach area would be front and center to that, because they are there, their homes on Anchorage View Road and the like on Ferry Road have borne the brunt of what was necessary. I digress and say that was a tourist community at one time. You mentioned Bias and the wonderful work that Bias does in environmental work and research and the like are right there. It would be remiss of me not to ask when these folks who are living in amongst heavy industrial areas now, as it has grown over the last 70 years to what it is today, do we still have plans to look at an evacuation mechanism for them, because they could very well find themselves landlocked. If we're talking about them smelling serious fumes that can burn their eyes, they're not too far away. Hopefully not, but it could very well happen. We've had industrial accidents, and we've got docks over there that could be fixed up, and I think that will fall more on the works and engineering side down there at the end of Fair Reach, and the prisons are there. Maybe we could look to make sure that area gets even more attention, so that we can accommodate a secondary access out of the Georges and not wait for some problem to occur. So the question that I had as it relates to the odors, and who would we turn to in our constituency when it comes to these matters? Should we be relying on the ministry? Should we be going to energy, which is a different area, and the like? Because, as I say, as any of you who represent your constituents, you know when it's landing on their doorstep, they're the ones who are most concerned, and they're the ones that we have to answer for in this particular area. So I'm very pleased and proud of the minister to bring this forward, and these are my comments as it relates to, in particular, to constituency number 2, which includes Ferry Reach. That beautiful area still remains. When you look from Anchorage Road and look west, the property still looks the same way it looked in the 1600s, and may it not be developed. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Swan. Deputy Speaker, do you rise to add a contribution? at
Yes,
this?
ever so briefly,
Thank
Mr.
you. I like the
Speaker.
brief part.
I do feel duty bound to get up and speak on this, given where I live and the people who are in the adjacent area to constituency 4. And we have an incinerator down there, and we have the I will call it the medical waste facility as well. And so you do end up with emissions that and the airport, yes. We do end up with emissions sometimes that have an odor that grabs the attention of those who work in that area, Mr. Speaker, and of those who live nearby. And what I will say is that I too am happy to see that there are regulations that are being put in place to ensure that the emissions are at a level which should not cause any harm to those who are exposed to these emissions. We all know when you look at things like sulfur dioxide and other gases, especially once they are mixed with moisture, if you are in that area and you are breathing that in, the nasal cavity and the oral cavity are moist, right? And so those chemicals will immediately turn into acid and can have a detrimental impact on the human body. And so it is of vital importance that we ensure that we have regulations in place, since we do have areas that are considered industrial areas, and we do have plants that are dealing with fumes from the materials that they deal with every day. And we are duty bound to ensure that we put protections in place that will mitigate against any of these emissions having a detrimental impact on the human body, so to speak. And so I am glad, and I will be able to say with confidence that as we continue to move forward, that the government is trying to stay on top of things in a way to ensure that the people that they serve are put first and foremost, and their best interest is considered first. So I am sure that this is not the end all and be all, and our minister will continue to look at regulations that need to be either updated or amended in such a way to ensure that human life always takes priority over everything. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. MP, Opposition Whip, would you like your moment of contribution?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it still morning? Good afternoon, colleagues.
Afternoon, correct.
Yeah, this is of course welcomed by all, and I do recognize that the minister will do everything he can to manage some of the challenges that come with clean air. And I'm sure that as the new minister in Public Works, he's come across some of the challenges when it comes to clean air, especially when, as a historical point of view, businesses were allowed to be in neighborhoods, residential areas, when it comes to paint shops and these kinds of things. And I think that's probably where some of the most consternation comes from in these neighborhoods where industrial type businesses were allowed. So I'm curious as to whether or not the minister is looking at how we can relocate some of these areas, because no matter how much we put in regulation, there will always be emissions. Once you put it in, then something's going to come out, and it's called emissions. And how we regulate that is a good thing. and if you think about it, I missed that one. I don't hear it. No, you know I'm quick on my feet. I hope I don't hear it because I'll have to come back on it. All right. So we need to be regulating, but this is not an easy task that the minister has. What I am curious about is whether or not the trained individuals or these trained regulators actually are also not just trained in being able to take a monitor and read it, but that they also have knowledge in these industries or have accessible to them in these industries, how to deal with and to offer solutions and the likes, because it is difficult. I mean, I don't know where the industry Belco sits with these new regulations, but obviously something has to happen. We continue to hear with this, and I'm sure it's costly, extremely costly to continue to clean tanks and to clean roofs and things like that. But I also recognize the other side of things. If you bring in a cleaner fuel, we must understand that that means a higher cost of electricity. And so a balance has to be found. But unfortunately, in the past, we've allowed these industrial sites to be right smack within neighborhoods. So there's a complication. And as we move forward, I'm hoping that the minister will continue to look at opportunities. Like, for instance, Southside, we have an industrial site, an area where industrial type businesses with emissions can be put and can be allowed to grow and thrive. But the challenge again, as the representative, the Honorable Swan in constituency number 2, every so often you will get some challenges down in that area. And as the Honorable Deputy Speaker mentioned, on the south side and over St. David's side, you know, now that we're allowing toxic chemicals to be over there as well, it will continue to be a challenge. So I'm hoping, and I want to hear if the minister can let us know about where he's heading with this here, because we don't want to continue to allow businesses in residential areas. And I think it's not mandated anywhere, so it's not legislated anywhere. So these businesses can crop up tomorrow and be allowed to operate. So I'm hoping that as we move forward, there was talks in the past. I see the PS is here. He wasn't there at the time, but there were talks in the past about allocating new businesses into these industrial areas or allocating industrial areas for new businesses of the likes. Now, it might also mean that we need to plant the right plants and trees also that absorb toxins in the area for where there are big challenges. That is something that I haven't heard about, but maybe the minister can take a look at that, because it is a balancing act, and it becomes cost issue on one hand, managing issue on the other hand, Mr. Speaker, and then providing good solutions. And I was hoping that the minister would also give us some idea of the consultation that's taking place. So when these new regulations come about, that we're making sure that these industries understand what's coming. And I can tell you, as a former minister of public works, I mean, we had some major, and I'm sure the minister knows, major issues with some businesses. I mean, all out fights, literally, in the streets with trying to get these businesses to understand that they've got to do more. And it would be nice to hear about what he's thinking in the future in some of these instances. But certainly, one of the greatest challenges is in is it Smith's with the calls? Yeah, Smith's. I think that's Smith's. I don't even know what the solution is to that when it comes when it comes to emissions. So I don't know what we haven't seemed to be able to solve that problem for decades. And maybe the minister can tell us what's coming down the line or in the pipeline that helps manage that, because that probably is one of the messiest instances that, my goodness, I don't even want to drive through there. So, well, we need the milk now. I mean, I know you like your milk, Levita. So, honorable member. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. So again, I appreciate these regulations being put in place, these new standards, but it would be good to hear of some of the things in the pipeline from the minister of how we're going to address it, so that the public knows that we're just not putting out a piece of paper with how we're going to regulate it, but that we've got solutions involved in ensuring that our people are safe, and that these odors are contained as much as possible, just like you do in your own household. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable member.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to stand to lend my voice to this the Clean Air Amendment Regulations 2025. I'd just like to declare my interest that in my constituency we have an agricultural area near at the old Spicelands Riding Center, still a horse facility there, and there are people, and I jump off of what MP Kenner said. There's a balance, but in Bermuda, a lot of it is historical. Before regulations were put in place, people lived here, and then someone probably built a facility, and we just historically grew around it. But now in today's world, there are complications, where businesses are giving off fumes and emissions. And so in the case of Spicelands, yes, there's a horse facility there. And then 2 feet away, there's homes. And I know there's residents, they might have been accustomed over the years with the fumes and smells, but I know it does impact them. And then just on the other side, there is the old T. and Tatum School, which houses many facilities in there, which is also a church, which I attend. And there have been occasions when the fumes do get to a certain point and the breeze is blowing east and you get the strong smell. So, I support the minister and his team for bringing these regulations. And then also in an industrial aspect, on the boundary of my western border, there is Rail Bottom. Rail Bottom is an industrial facility, again, historical. There are people that have lived on the edges of it, but it has grown. And now there's a lot of auto body shops there, paint shops. And in my time as an MP, I have gotten numerous complaints about the fumes. And so it's good they can be toxic, paint fumes. So it's good to hear that these regulations are being brought to address these fumes and emissions that are being, put out there into people's residential spaces. But my question is, and I did hear the minister say that these are the regulations. My question to the minister is, for any repeat offenders, what is any penalties being proposed? So, because, some things out of our control. You can't control, as MP Kenner said, the cause. You can't control the smell. But in some cases, industrial, you might have more control. But if you are repeat offenders, what are some of the penalties that they can look forward to, or any penalties are being considered? But I support this. This is something that from east to west, not everybody, but small pockets do have to, deal with scents and emissions and odors coming out. And so we will have to, as a government, we govern for all. And so I support this. I just wanted to lend my voice, and the minister and his team they're on the right track, and that they keep going, and hopefully we won't be able to eradicate all these smells, but bring it down to a manageable level where everyone can breathe clean air and not have to worry about health or detrimental effects. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP. Does any other member wish to make a contribution? Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me just get myself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I first wanted to start by thanking all of my colleagues within this House for their contributions. I think there's a level of support for these regulations on both sides. And, I think it's something that myself and the Ministry of Public Works and Environment will continue to monitor, track, and keep on top of. I think before I start to address questions, I think there's a couple of things that I wanted to establish. The first is that these regulations, in essence, set a standard and or a threshold. And I recognize that because I look at the member Cannoneer and I said, to be fair, let's be honest, farmers are going to smell. Farms are going to smell. We accept this. So, but we also have to appreciate that there's a acceptance of a level of smell, and then there's excessive smell. And so that is what these regulations are first aiming to do, is to establish that threshold and then establish a level of enforcement should companies exceed that threshold. And I do take the honorable member Cannonier's point about, industrial areas being intertwined with residential areas, and that's a fair point. But there's two spaces that I wanted to be. The first is we can name companies like Belka and Greenland Dairy Farm, but this is across the board. I don't want this ever to be a space where we are targeting any specific entity. But I do say that in that example, that would be an example where to some degree the farm was there first. And there were residential people who built around that farm. And I think that needs to be emphasized as well. But I will do my best to address some of these questions that were raised. MP Smith asks, what efforts were made to localize international standards? So the Department of Environment and Natural Resources strategy is to pick and choose the best legislation from other developed jurisdictions that is appropriate to apply to Bermuda. So we looked at a number of jurisdictions and we picked some of the best practices and standards that are more appropriate and applicable to Bermuda. The regulations, there was also a question about coffee and if coffee is considered a nuisance. And so I think it's important also to emphasize that coffee roasters are not currently considered controlled plants under the Act. And so it is very important that we emphasize that what we are referring to are controlled plants. And so not every smell, not every nuisance from every single individual falls under these regulations. We are referring to controlled plants. And so another question we had is the regulations do not include farms. What is the controlled plant at the Greenland Dairy Farm? And so to be fair, the regulations only apply to, that because this particular farm that you're referring to has aerated mature manure pits, they would be considered controlled plants. So because they have aerated manure pits, they are considered a controlled plant. And so thus they fall under these regulations. How will the regulations be monitored and enforced? So the regulations will be monitored by the pollution control section. We do, as I said, mentioned, we do have 3 individuals within that department. How will, and I want to be clear because there's a couple of misunderstandings. And so if I can back up and provide clarity. Mm-hmm. The regulations, to some degree, is establishing pollutants that have particulates and sulfur dioxide and the things that I mentioned earlier. And then also in a separate measure, we are referring to smells. And so the monitoring and the tracking of these areas are completely different. They're not the same. So I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but the opposition leader asks, will a monitoring device be placed near Greenland Dairy? That would be a no, because the monitoring devices track the pollutants, as I said, the particulates, the sulfur dioxide, and the like. When we refer to smells, we are referring to the 3 trained individuals within the public service who have a procedure where they will use their nose. Absolutely. They will use their nose. And believe it or not, the nose is one of the best ways to detect the sense. It always knows. You're correct. You're informed today. So I know I'm bouncing a bit, but I just wanted to sort of be a bit clear what I'm referring to is these individuals will go capture a level of this reported air or this reported stench. We have a established facility down at Bias where they will do their procedures and to determine whether or not this stench still is beyond the threshold that is given or that is established. My colleague MP Swan asks, how will these regulations impact the Ministry of Public Works and Environment, particularly as it refers to Tynes Bay? And I will say that these regulations apply to all controlled plants, including government facilities. My colleague also asked, how will these regulations impact the fuel companies around Ferry Reach? And so the odors that can occur during fuel deliveries to Bermuda also occur at facilities that are considered as to be controlled plants under the Clean Air Act. And so these will also need to meet the requirements of the nuisance odor regulations. My colleague MP Fogo asked, how will we ensure the updating of regulations in a timely manner to prioritize human safety? And so the Department of Environment and Natural Resources will continue to monitor the changes to the international statutes because these are based on medical monitoring expertise of large populations in order to get the required statistical data to create more refined standards. And I'm just logging here. I'm trying to get as much as I can. Also, my colleague MP Lister said, will these regulations apply to Spiceland's horse facility and the Well Bottom industrial site? Well, the horse facilities, I may be disappointed to know that these are not controlled plants. And so, no, these regulations won't specifically apply to that. However, spray paint facilities are considered controlled plants under these acts. And so these are already policed, and the odor regulations will provide DENR with an additional tool to reduce impacts to neighbors. And the final question that I have is, what are some of the penalties for repeat offenders? And so, again, if I can separate the two, this the large particulates and the soot and things of that nature, and then there's smell. So there's separate items. And so the large particulate soot becomes a statutory nuisance that can result once sufficient evidence has been collected, and it can lead up to a fine of $20,000, followed by up to $5,000 per day afterwards. And when we come to failure to meet the air quality standards, the first step is to designate an emissions control order, which does lead up to, and it can possibly lead up to a $50,000 fine. And then finally, nuisance odor fines can exceed or fine not exceeding $5,000. And so I think with that, I believe I've answered most, if not all, of the questions that were asked. And so with that, Mr. Speaker, I move that the said draft regulations be approved and that a suitable message be sent to His Excellency the Governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any objections to that? None. The appropriate notifications will be sent to the governor. Thank you. Members, the next item on the order paper, the next two items on the order paper will be carried over and to a further sitting, future sitting. So that actually brings us to a close of the items on the order paper. We'll now do the third readings on each of the items, the two items that were done today. And Acting Minister, can you do your reading?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Standing Order 21 be suspended to enable me to move the bill entitled Comprehensive Prohibition of Beer Shares and Nominee Directors Amended Act 2025. Be now read the third time by its title only.
Any objections? There are none. Continue, Minister.
I move the bill be now read a third time by its title only and passed.
The bill has been read a third time by title only and is now passed. Thank you, Minister. Works? No, yours is regulations. Yes, regulations. So we're done. I'm going to ask that the indulgence of the House for a matter that didn't make it this morning to be tabled, and seek the indulgence of the House so that the minister can table a matter in relation to a matter that has already been that was publicized yesterday, and the procedures to follow up to have it presented here. Minister, are you?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to attach and submit for the information of the Honorable House of Assembly the Fairmont Southampton Hotel and Resort Master Plan Southampton Princess Special Development Order 2025, as made by the minister responsible for planning, in exercise of the power conferred in Section 15(1) of the Development and Planning Act 1974. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The matter was gazetted already, needed to be presented in the House. Thank you. Acting Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do not adjourn to December 5th, 2025.
Are there any objections to that? No objections. Does any member wish to speak to that?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Hold on one sec. Let me set a clock here for you there. Well, then wrong. Clear the thing. Start over. You guys can, yes. 1 minute. Let's just let the technical officers depart, and we'll start the clock. Good. You have your 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on this MTA this afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Initially, I was going to make mention in congrats no bits, but 3 minutes would not be enough time for me to say what I had to say, Mr. Speaker. But I want to start off by saying yesterday, I had the privilege attending the Thanksgiving court and the mental health and the drug court and the DUI court. They held a Thanksgiving court to show the appreciation to their workers and also to their clients. And I also like to mention that Minister Weeks and I both attended. I in the stead of the substantial minister who sits in another place. But Mr. Speaker, without having previous knowledge much about the DUI, the drug, and the mental health court, I went in and I had I dare say, life-changing experience. To sit there and first of all, the participants that were invited or clients that were invited, and I must say that they have to remain anonymous, so I can't mention any names, but the clients that were there, Mr. Speaker, while many of them have had trouble past, to see them and the few that stood up and spoke and gave their experiences, it was actually very sobering to me. And a few of them actually, I dare say, brought a tear to my eye, Mr. Speaker, because, and the keynote speaker was Magistrate Juan Wolf. And to quote what he said is that inherently, these are all good people, but due to influence of drugs and other substances, they made bad choices and bad decisions that put them in this place. But to what really stood out with me is to see that the inward reflection that these people have, these clients have done during this process and be able to come forward. And this one young man came forward and he spoke about how before, under the influence of whether it be, a substance or alcohol, that he can tell that he was not acting in his right mind. But now through this program and process where he can now see that he has a clear mind and the choices that he was making before and how they impacted not only himself, his family, and those around him. And some of the stories, Mr. Speaker, and I wish I could tell some of these stories, but they really hit home. And I think that maybe in a different space, there are young people and people who are probably currently fighting with alcohol and drug abuse should hear these stories because they can help change someone. And my kudos, first of all, goes to the staff of the drug court, the DUI court, the mental health court, and the supporting agencies, whether it be Focus, Turning Point, also the BHB and the mental health teams there. My kudos goes to them for the work that they do and the impact that they have on their clients and turning their life around, Mr. Speaker. And what also stood out to me was earlier during the week, one of the participants in the program, they had graduated but they waited until yesterday to do an official ceremony. And again, his story of how where his life was before he entered the program, and now where it is, and how, yes, it's always a journey. He's not at the goal yet. You always keep striving to be better. And I, again, encourage those persons, and even persons that are not in the courts, but if you're fighting and if you're struggling in these challenges, to keep going. It's never today's the end. You always want to do better and strive better. And while there's so much work that is being done, and as I said, the positive influence on these clients, there was also another sobering experience that happened while this was going on. One of the lawyers that were there, as she stood up to spoke, she said that as she entered into the courts yesterday, she heard one of the security guards make a comment that they're having an event for drug addicts and drunkards. And she turned and she said something to the security guard, which put the security guard into place to realize that even if these persons are drug addicts and they're fighting against addiction, they are still people, and they still deserve to be treated as people. And with all the good work that the mental health, the DUI, and the drug court and the supporting agencies are doing, the challenge is is on the outside, the public perception. Because yes, a person might be at the rock bottom. They might be struggling, fighting with addiction, but they still deserve to be treated with dignity and respect and not cast aside. Because if we cast them aside, they're only going to go deeper in that hole. And so to those in the public, my call and cry is, when you see someone down on the luck for whatever that reason, if they're fighting with a substance abuse, fighting with a mental health challenge, we should not discard them, speak ill and negative about them. We should reach out, because Bermuda is a small place. Every family is impacted by someone, whether it's a mental health challenge, drug or alcohol abuse or addiction. And so by discarding someone, that could be your family member. So I would say reach out, try and help them, rather that be just having a small conversation with them. Because one of the clients actually said is, you're considered invisible when you're on the outskirts of life. But just someone saying, hey, good morning to you, that can change them, make them feel better about themselves. And so we, as the public, we have to do our part to help those that are vulnerable, at risk for addiction and drug abuse, and even those that suffer from mental health conditions. And I say that also to lead into, Mr. Speaker, as I said, I was representing in place of the substantial minister who sits in another place, but the substantial minister, she is passionate about reform in our justice system. And that goes to also incarceration versus rehabilitation. And she is strong on rehabilitating people that are incarcerated. So when they come out, they can be reintegrated back into society, and that they can also feel value and worth. And the reforms that we're doing are not just the ministers doing, it's not just for in the corrections, but it's also the courts reform that we're looking to do. And one thing that we're doing now is there is a round of town hall sessions going on in regards to consultation on the jury reform. And I encourage members of the public to come out, be involved in this consultative process. Too many times we heard that government is just making a decision and doing something without consulting the public. Well, this is a public consultation. And the two sessions that have happened already, one at Somerset Cricket Club and one at Paget Gospel Hall, they have been very enlightening and informative. People, the persons that have come out and attended, it's been discussion, it's been feedback. They've put ideas out there of how that we can reform the jury process. But we look forward to other reform consultations when it comes to even in regards to legal aid and how we can better service those that need legal aid to get justice. Because justice should be seen to be done for everyone, and should be no barriers, whether it be cost of it or accessibility to justice. So legal aid is a very key important reform that we're looking at. And so, as I said, I just wanted to give thanks to those that are involved in the mental health drug court and DUI court. And there are many to name, and I don't want to leave out anyone's name, but I again give them congratulations, and I encourage them to continue to doing the work they're doing, because it has real impact on their clients, which has an impact on our society, because the more people that we can help and reform, they can become productive members of society, but also that they can also be voices and advocates to those that are still struggling with addiction, because they have been there, and they can help them to say that they can fight that, they can win that battle and become a better person. And before I wrap up my comments, the theme of yesterday's event was gratitude, being grateful. Yes, it was a Thanksgiving event, and Thanksgiving is next week, but still being grateful and thankful. One is for life, because life, we only have one life, and we should never take it for granted. And for those that do get caught up with addiction, that they should be looking forward to turn the life around and being grateful for a second chance of life. And that's what's key, that a lot of those clients that spoke yesterday is that they now have a second chance at life. They recognize what went wrong, and now they were on the path to, on the straight and narrow and keeping right. So we all should be thankful and grateful for life, and always try to do our best to make the choices that keep us in a straight and narrow, but never discard those that fall to the wayside, and help those, because we are a community, a small community, and everyone helping everyone can help make our community a better place. So thank you for that time, Mr. Speaker, and I promise not to be long. I know some of us are hungry. And again, to those that work in the mental health, the DUI and drug courts, kudos to you. And again, that was an eye-opening experience for me, and I commend them for the work they do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Does any other member? MP Robertson, I see you jumped to your feet pretty quickly that time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I just wanted to make mention of a huge issue that plagues our community. And I know that we are tackling many issues at the moment, but this particular one seems to be not falling to the wayside, but it doesn't seem to be a lot of legislative movement on this particular one. And of course, it is impaired and drunk driving. And obviously, we hear a lot of talk about this in the community, because there's not one person or household that has not been impacted by a road collision or this sort of issue. And what I wanted to speak to was the need for us to start educating our young people from an early age on safe road habits. And I wanted to propose that we consider having a curriculum, a road safety curriculum in the education system that starts from very young, primary school all the way up to high school, prior to Project Ride. Because a lot of times you find that folks are just getting into a culture or a habit of poor driving over time, which is passed down through many lineages and generations.
Excuse me, Mr. Speaker, I'd just like to make a point of information. Is that
are you okay?
Point of information on his motion.
Yes,
Derek?
just to what the member mentioned in regards to putting road safety in the curriculum. As the previous road safety chairman, that was something that we actually did do. So we actually created a coloring activity book for P3 and under. So it's an early introduction to road safety. I can say that we didn't get to full breadth to middle school and senior school, but it is an intent to get road safety into the school curriculum so children can learn about it as early as possible.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the member's intervention as someone who has been chairman of the road safety, and I'm glad that that information is out to the public. But specifically, and I also am happy to see that the work has started, but specifically what I mean is something that carries straight through to high school, that is conjoined and joined up. And the reason why is because obviously you have a point where we get into middle school and high school where this behavior kind of ingrains as to these unsafe riding habits, and also, you know, returning from events, from functions under the influence and getting behind the wheel. And so I do believe that in middle school and high school, those are I would say the hot button years of really trying to keep our young people engaged in safe driving habits. And so that's why I think that we need something conjoined. Whereas even if you want to add a certificate or something that shows that this person has completed this by 16 and has, even if you're not intending to get a bike or get behind the wheel yourself, as a passenger, there are some safety measures that I think people don't realize that they should know, as far as being a safe pedestrian, as far as, you know, being somebody who is using the road outside of a vehicle that still needs to adhere to certain safety rules and regimes that I think, unfortunately, only really focused from primary school. And if somebody voluntarily enters Project Ride, which is basically declaring that I'm going to get a bike at 16. But as somebody who didn't get a bike at 16 and went straight to a car, I didn't have a program of that nature to prepare me for the road until I was ready to get a vehicle that I preferred. So, but I just wanted to put that forward. And also, there's been calls in the community, and I think that we as legislators need to respond to them, and it is to consider stiffer penalties and tougher laws on impaired driving. I mean, we've had cases where unfortunately someone has come out after causing death through negligent driving or impaired driving or whatever you want to call it, and then has come out and caused the death of another person. And also seeing sentences as light as 2 years for driving on the influence and causing the death of a person. And again, this is something that I think we always say in this community, that we can't police our way out of something. I do believe that we need to not only have a push in education, but we also need to have a stiffer deterrent for folks who are already outside the education system, because it's very clear that if someone could come out and take another life, whether intentional or not, that's 2 lives that are lost. That's 2 families that are grieving from one individual, right? And so we have to be very careful about, you know, allowing repeat offenses and still not getting a stiff penalty, because that sends a signal not only to the families who are grieving, but to folks who feel like, oh, I can get behind the wheel and drive, that there is not a stiff deterrent for you. And I think that that's something that we need to consider, because it's getting worse. I mean, I obviously statistically, it may not reflect that, but I know that my constituents are constantly complaining about feeling unsafe on the road, you know, not looking, having to worry about crossing the street in poorly lit areas, and, you know, just feeling generally unsafe on the road. And I know when we all step out of this chamber, where husbands, wives, parents, whatever we are, and each of us has a family member or people that we care about that are on the road. And as we saw, it can happen multiple collisions in one day. So it clearly needs to be not only more education from carried through high school before Project Ride, but also it needs to be more deterrence from people to get behind the wheel. And I mean, even when it comes to holding certain establishments liable for allowing people to leave multiple times way over the limit of alcohol and get on the bike and unfortunately not make it home. So I have heard that particular policy is being considered, but I do think that from my question, we found that the road safety plan, an updated one, will be coming in 2026, which I welcome. But I do think that this issue is pressing, and I think certain things can be done now to stem the flow of what we're seeing as a culture of just poor driving and riding habits. And so I just wanted to rise and hopefully galvanize or challenge the government to put these things in place
now or consider to do it in a way that is obviously not too punitive, but gets the message across that we as a community are not going to settle or continue to allow the loss of life on our roads and the collisions that cause not only property damage, but leave some of our constituents and people and Bermudians maimed for life, right? And I mean, the impact that that has not only on the people's lives and on the families' lives emotionally, but also there's tangible fiscal issues such as, you know, our hospital being under strain. How much of that is due to dealing with collisions and injuries and all manners of things? And even, you know, you want to talk about healthcare costs. How is that impacted by having so many folks who unfortunately have lost a leg or lost a limb or have been burned beyond repair, who have to now join the disabled community because of something that happened on a road collision or any sort of accident? So I do think that this is an issue that is multifaceted, that affects many things in our community, and I think that it's needed to have some immediate action, and I don't think we can wait until April 2026. And I do want to recognize the work done by the Bermuda Road Safety Council. Obviously, it's ongoing, and I welcome the intervention from member MP Lister on that particular point. But we definitely need to see a bit more, because this is clearly becoming something that claims a lot of Bermudians' lives and impacts a lot of families. It always has been, but you know, we have the ability to try to make some deterrents to put a stop to it. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I conclude my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. Does any other member? MP Smith. MP
Thank
Al
you.
Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's been about 3 weeks now since the accident involving the trash truck. And at the time, the reports and government spokesperson said that no one was injured. Subsequent to that, there is somebody who's come out and said that they were in fact injured, and so was somebody else, and that they're both in hospital. So it would be great to get a sense of actually, you know, whether there were injuries. Pray that, you know, they're not too bad, but these people had indicated that they had been in the hospital for a few days. So I'm not quite sure what the outcome of that is. Perhaps government could give the public an update on how they are and what the story is with respect to that accident. Thank you.
Thank you. MP Ming.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and listening audience. Today I rise, Mr. Speaker, and I entitled this motion to adjourn call a few good men and, of course, women. I often think about this political journey that I'm on, and for me, Mr. Speaker, it always starts with the people. And I often get asked about the political journey that I am on. I think about it also in the sense that whilst we may be separated by our parties, I believe that we are united in what we want to see for Bermuda. So divided, but together. Still, remember I said a few good men and, of course, women. When people ask, they usually say to me, why did you get into politics? How do you find it? And it always starts with, for me, the same thing, the people. And you and those that have served with me in this place know that I will be on my feet in 2.5 seconds for anything as it relates to the people. And those that have served with me in other spaces know that everything that you do is about and for the people of Bermuda. So that's kind of how I have, when I'm having conversations, Mr. Speaker, how it goes. But it also comes down to, and I say to them about characteristics of what you need and should have to serve the same people. And we speak often about having a vision. We talk about having the passion, having accountability, transparency, and of course, one of my favorite things is integrity. It's been a lot of discussion lately Mr. Speaker, on young infusion. And I just want to say that I don't discriminate about anybody with anybody based on their age. But I also don't believe that passion, commitment, and vision only belong to the young. I look at it when I'm speaking to someone and they ask me, doesn't matter what your age is. If you have these characteristics, you want to serve, then I tell them, go forward, put your name there. Because let me just give you an analogy or something. If I'm getting into the hospital for a surgery, I don't care the age of the doctor, okay? I care about the qualification. I care that they have the means and the academic side to be able to do it, that I'm in safe hands. Those are the qualities that end up mattering to me, not their age. I don't care if they're 20, 30, 40, or 50, Mr. Speaker. So my real intent I'm saying to people today is if you have a passion and those characteristics and you don't have a problem serving, go for it. I'll give you the real side of it too when they ask me, because it's not always easy and at times it can be thankless. But there are some days when it is so worth it. And I know I continue to say it in this space and outside of this space that I have some of the best constituents ever, and I love each and every one of them. I grew up with most of them. But Mr. Speaker, I also want to just say that if you have it, go for it. And I also want to just say close, because I wasn't going to give anything long on this today, but I just want to say that I call upon a few good men and of course women that regardless of your age, if you love our people in our country, if you share a desire to serve and a commitment to Bermuda's future, I would be honored to work alongside you for the betterment of this community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Member. MP Cannonier, are you rising?
Yes, yes, I was.
Cannonier?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had the fortune of representing parliamentarians for Bermuda in the last week gone to a group called PDGN, and that is Parliamentarians for Diabetes Global Network. Had no clue it existed, but upon taking on shadow ministry for health, it became evident that the opportunity to represent Bermuda in Malta at this forum on behalf of the Diabetic Association here in Bermuda, who is doing a fantastic work. And just as an awareness thing, I want to thank Laurie Rockhead, who's directing the Diabetic Association and the good work that they're doing, that November is actually the month of diabetes awareness. And a lot has been going on in Bermuda already with the health department, involving government, and just the public at hand. What I will say is this, and I'll start out by the timing rather fortunate. I've been going to my doctor, and I was told that my glucose levels, my sugar was going up. And so I need to manage it better as I age and go forward. I had the opportunity to share the stage with former Prime Minister, Baroness Theresa May, only to listen to her story that a year before she became Prime Minister, she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and the complications that came with that. She jokingly said about how whenever there was a parliament session, of course, there would be this spike and the stress that came along with it, and the fact that she had to manage her diet and the likes was rather fascinating. That, quite frankly, I did not and was not aware that type 1, you could get it at any point in time in your life. And here was a former prime minister having diabetes and having to deal with it at a ripe old age. Not to say that she was old, but for most of us in our experience with diabetes, we tend to think you get it a bit earlier, especially with type 1, that you're born with it. But this thing can take you on even at the wonderful young age of the Mr. Speaker in the House. So it is not something that necessarily even that there are indicators that you are picking up on. There are always indicators. And so today I just wanted to bring awareness to the challenge that we are having in Bermuda with diabetes. I must say, going to the forum, we are managing it fairly well. One of the areas and the loopholes that we have, as we heard earlier, talking about on the roads and the likes, is education, early education. And it was interesting to hear some of the challenges that other countries are having. We have a 13.4% of our population that is diabetic. That's both type 1 and type 2. And I did mention at the forum how many times in the House, you know, you may have a doctor who, when we come up with medical things, that may be a member of parliament, but that all of us really should be getting to understand some of the challenges that we are having in some major areas. And diabetes, just as a health challenge, we're still going to the doctor too late and picking up on the challenges with it. We're going too late when our eyes are beginning to fail us and realize, oh no, I'm a diabetic, and I've been so for years. Now you've got eye issues that may not be reversible. So the awareness is important. And I mentioned also, Mr. Speaker, that you, rightfully so, when we were talking about educating parliamentarians on the challenges of abuses for kids, so that everyone in the House should do some SCARS training. And I would encourage you, Mr. Speaker, I know that there's still a couple that haven't done the SCARS training. They have to do it. So it's an awareness thing, so that at least when some of these issues come up, you have some form of awareness of what's going on. And I would say and dare say that it would be nice to have a conversation with you, Mr. Speaker, about diabetes as well, and the awareness of it and the subtleties of it, so that even in our deliberations and the cost of it, it is extremely expensive in Bermuda to the public, which is one of the reasons premiums are going up and up and up, is because we are not managing ourselves as best as we can. So I will be coming to each one of you to encourage you to sign up to be a part of the PDGN, just as an awareness thing, so when flyers come out and emails go out, at least you're getting information to you to keep and be aware. Now, 13.4%, Mr. Speaker, for our island, you know, I was getting all this information together because I was going to speak at Malta. And, you know, I was going into it understanding that this is a horrific rate that we have, and we've got to manage this thing better. One of the things I found out about it was that it's a horrific challenge for us financially. Health-wise, we've got a fairly, I mean, compared to some of the rest of the world, when it comes to insurance coverage, you know, we're doing much better than other countries, although we know we have the loophole there where people aren't covered. But then I realized that even with those in Bermuda that have insurance, they're afraid to go to the doctor because they can't even afford to pay the copay. So we've got to figure out how to solve that issue. You can get, and to the credit of the Bermuda Diabetic Association, I must say, if you cannot afford your medications, Bermuda, I need you to know that they will cover your medications. So please visit them if it is a challenge. I know that there's stigma around it, but in Bermuda, we're doing much better. Now, when I got there, I was flabbergasted at the fact that there are countries with 30% of the population with diabetes. And then listening to some of the stories, it is a cultural thing at that. There are some countries who still to this day, there's such a stigma around it that they don't even want to tell their families that they have it. And so we have to do our part, just like everyone else, as we've done all the way back to apartheid, Bermuda being involved in ridding this evil from the world. Even with these diseases and these challenges and health challenges, I think Bermuda is primed to help with the global issues that we are having and some of the networks and what governments are doing here in Bermuda, whether whoever's in government, and how we're going to continue to fight this to encourage a better health style. Now, with type 2 and me being on the borderline, I can manage it, right? You know, I'd make sure I don't eat the potato salad and the roasted potatoes and the peas and rice when it's on the table. At the same time, yeah, you know, you want to eat. And then, you know, watch the chicken because it's smothered in barbecue sauce. A little bit, you know, moderation is the key. I'm not saying we can't enjoy ourselves, but moderation is the key. So anyone within the 36 of us that may be pre or want to know more information, I'd like to form a little small association because awareness is the key. Now, I will give credit to the association, the Diabetic Association. They're doing a good job at getting out there and awareness. The loophole is that we're not getting to our young people, and we're not allowing our young people to talk about the issues that they're having in the schools. You know, kids can be crude sometimes to one another. But what I recognize is that they also are willing to defend their peers. So the more that we exercise, these are some of the solutions that came out, Deputy Speaker. They're getting our young people to speak about it in the schools, but I'm encouraging the government and the opposition to go along with the Diabetic Association to show the support for getting the awareness out there. There are, just in Bermuda, some atrocities. But when I start thinking about other countries where women and arranged marriages, the families will not even tell the family that's about to marry into theirs about the Diabetic Association, and women are not taking their medications because they don't want to know, because otherwise they won't get married because they have diabetes. This is some of the things that are going on. 30% of your population, Deputy Speaker? Unbelievable. Now, that doesn't say that we ease off on the gas because ours is 13.4%, because what I can tell you is that as a financial burden, it is one of the worst in the world, Bermuda, when it comes to managing the finances of this, because you know everything is expensive here because we have to import and all the likes. We don't have any manufacturers here on the island. So as parliamentarians, we need to do our part. We need to get out there. We need to be able to relate to these issues and to be relatable, identifying with them. But at the same time, education is an area where we need to do better from an early point. And then I must say, I want to thank Sir Michael and Dr. Sana. We met some incredible people. The science, we met doctors who are in the lab, who are studying how we can work with new medications. It's incredible, the new technology that is out there. And I will tell you this, one of the doctors that was there and knows Bermuda extremely well, and some of the type 1 members in Bermuda that have diabetes, they talked about stem cell research. Now, I'd heard about this with the Chinese, but I didn't know that the UK actually is full steam ahead looking at stem cell, not stem cell surgery, but using stem cells to inject into the liver that will signal to the body to reverse this issue. And the results are incredible. And he could only give us so much information, but I would encourage, I had a chat with the health minister this morning. I'm going to talk with her some more about it, to encourage us to learn a little more about the new technologies that are coming out. So we do have cooperation there. But this is all about awareness. And I want to tell you, I'm going back some years now. My son was 4, so I got these 4 kids, and he was the last. And we were vegetarian, no eggs, no milk, no cheese. We were really going at it. And for about a decade, that's where I was. But I went down the aisle of Harrington Hundreds back then, and wow, they had an aisle for diabetics. All this, all natural, no sugar. I mean, incredible. I was like, oh, wow. And I don't know about you guys, but I love a bowl of cereal. In fact, I'll eat a whole box if I'm given the opportunity. Thank goodness I have a wife that checks me sometimes, right? So they had Fruit Loops. What? Fruit Loops? No, I'm like, what? I'm looking at my son. He's 4. He's like, yeah, Dad, let's go for this. So I go and get the box. No artificial colorings, all natural flavored, all, no sugars. I'm like, I don't want to say it, but hell yes, I'm going to get that, right? So I go and I get it, and I get home. We're going to have cereal for cereal and toast for dinner. Yeah, right up my alley. So get home. I've got a big bowl, got a small bowl, and we eat the cereal. Now, what I found out was this, and there's a moral to this story here. Just bear with it. It tasted horrible. Okay, it tasted horrible, right? So my son is having a fit, but we finished it. Now, the moral of the story, why am I telling the story, is this. I realized I had an epiphany moment at that time that I was addicted to substances that were killing me, that would lead to diabetes and all kinds of complications. My body enjoyed killing itself. That's the epiphany moment. And so we also, and I'm telling this story because in sharing, maybe at some point in time, some of us already may have an epiphany moment in understanding that, everything that we put in shouldn't go in, right? We gotta watch it with moderation. And yeah, I mean, something as simple as cereal, I didn't even, back then, I wasn't even aware about the coloring, how bad it was for you, right? With some of these things. So I think that I want to do a service to the Bermuda Diabetic Association and bringing this awareness into this arena. I'm telling a personal story about an epiphany moment and understanding that, we tend to frown our eyes on those who get on illicit drugs, but we're consuming drugs every day that are destroying the body. And it's simply awareness, which is all I'm doing to bring it to the table, that we can enjoy things, but moderation at the end of the day. And so I'm hoping that as we move forward and I start speaking to some of you all individually, that you'll sign up just to be aware of some of the challenges that are out there and the new technology, so that because when we speak as parliamentarians, people listen. And we have influence. And so we need to apply more pressure into getting things where we need to be. And this will segue for my next motion to adjourn about the health insurance companies. And I'm letting everyone know, and the insurance companies know, that I'm coming again about the issues that I have with the health insurance companies and what I see developing in the near future and what's going on in Bermuda. It is not healthy, and it will not be advantageous to our entrepreneurs of Bermuda, and something needs to happen. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, member. Are there any other persons who wish to speak to the motion? I recognize the member from constituency 2. Member, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Acting Speaker. I rise today to give credit to the great event that took place last week that showcased Bermuda to the world. The largest sports tourism event that we host portrayed Bermuda in a way in which we all can be proud, and all were proud. And as I said on Congrats earlier, giving credence to those organizers, the chairman, and the teams that put together the event. It wasn't lost on me the good work that went in to make that possible. I was asked not too long ago about Bermuda and who we should recognize for in the space of that great sport that I have been blessed to have been captured by. And I declare my interest. I've been involved in the game of golf since 1971, when Port Royal was open, and I was raised by a family that was involved in it well into the 20s and the 30s in Bermuda. And upon reflection, I have to share, and I've been sharing this with persons, that we would not have been able to showcase Bermuda to the world the way in which we did, notwithstanding the great course that I grew up on and was able to win my Bermuda Open Championships on, was transformed in 2008. And I got to say that the vision of Dr. the Honorable Hewitt Brown made it possible for Bermuda to have seen itself around the world in a way that would not have been possible had that course not been redeveloped. And the Deputy Premier, who's not here today, would have been very much aware of what it would have taken and some of the criticisms that would have been leveled at the time. And since that time, in 2008, Bermuda has showcased itself to the world no less than 6 times in the PGA Grand Slam of golf, that persons like Roy McIlroy, no less than that, being one of the greatest players of the modern era, would have graced our shores and loved fishing. His family were very humble persons. It was a new era of his emergence, would have been amongst those 20-odd persons that would have come to Bermuda shores. But in the last 7 years, we've hosted repeatedly 7 PGA Tour events, which featured 120 players, teams of persons coming to Bermuda to set up. The crews that come before reminded me of the days when I played the tour and it was a Monday qualifier and you were coming in at the same time as the setup crews and the like. And if you made it, you played on the week of the event. And that's sports tourism all in itself. And so I've mentioned on more than one occasion that I think Dr. Braun, for his vision for not only the golf course redevelopment, but also the fast ferries that we have, the cruise piers that we have, in tandem with his ministers of the day, the aquatic center that we have, was very much a visionary. And notwithstanding all the difficulties that he faces in this world currently, the vision that he shared with Bermuda, we have been, as a collective country, have been certainly the benefactors of that. And then as I reflected even more on who should we recognize in Bermuda, Dr. Braun built on a vision that was already built. And that was the vision that birthed me in 1970 and 71 when Port Royal was open in October 29th of 1970. And in my research, since I do a lot of research, working with Dr. Jeffrey Sammons, who, Madam Acting Speaker, you would know, because thankfully when you were a minister, some of his research work on Louis Raphael Corbin was released to the public and unveiled many things that we did not know that date back to 1921, which I was able to find during doing some research for Dr. Sammons, that he went on the SS Victoria out of St. George's as a 16-year-old. Was able to corroborate things that he knew that he wasn't able to verify, and verification is important. So I speak about this historical points of Bermuda because it's important as people go back and look and find out the truth about Bermuda, that they can look in the Hansard and see and cross-reference to other things, because growing up, I would tell these stories anecdotally, and people who were saying and reading what I was saying would say, they're just words. And many of us have been passed down things from our elders. And it's great when you get persons like Dr. Jeffrey Sammons, who spent time researching Bermudians, as he still does today. He still calls me. So in that vein, I said that in addition to Dr. Braun, I felt that persons like Reggie Tucker from St. George's, Stokes Point, St. George's, who, if he was alive today, would have been one of my constituents. He was a great golfer. He was former president of the Bermuda Golf Association. George Wardman, Hubert Smith, his son sits in this house, who had a profound impact on a young person like me. And he was very close to my Uncle Herman Tushy Bascom, who would have taught him. And they were involved in developing Port Royal between 1963 and 1970, Hubert Smith being a former president of Ocean View. And then I said, what was the impact of Walter King, who was a cup match reserve for St. George's in 1968, became Port Royal's first golf pro from 70 to 76. He was the Pied Piper. I wouldn't be talking today. He was a member of parliament and was shocked, and he met the Queen representing the PLP in 1976. I wouldn't be in parliament if it wasn't, I wouldn't have been a golf pro if it wasn't for Walter King, and I wouldn't have been in parliament if it wasn't for Walter King, because the people that influence you as a young person, have a profound impact on your life. And I say that as a teacher, that we need to involve ourselves in younger people's lives to impact them. That's where we're going to take this country forward, impacting young people. So, and as we look at who we should honor, I said, and not only Walter in his few years at Port Royal influenced a lot of young people in that White Hill, Death Valley, Rail Bay, greater area. But then came Frankie Raban, who came up from Ocean View and was the pro for 30-odd years until the redevelopment came in 2008. 30-odd years. First Bermudian ever to play in the British Open, qualified in 1971. Worked as a musician with Lance Hayward, was a professional tiler, and took up golf because he married a woman who was a great golfer, Laura Raban. He found out a way to meet that girl, learn how to play golf. And he became very good at it. And so I said, you know, we should be honoring these folks. Why? Because I'm a product of Port Royal. Port Royal celebrated its 55th anniversary on October 29th, 2025. Probably wouldn't have Port Royal if it wasn't for Ocean View. And there are various stories that people would tell about when it started and the like. And I'll just go back to a historical document. In 1950, August 11th, when Governor Lieutenant General Hood opened Ocean View with present, if I may read from this article, he present there was.
You may.
Thank you. And my screen froze, but I know it was Lou DeRosa, David Tucker, who was president of the club at that time, and he was a member of parliament, MCP, a bit of a character he was. A.B. Place, Mr. Place, his son just passed, he earned a recorder. He was the secretary of the club. And of course, His Excellency was there. George Lowe. George Lowe would have been the uncle of the former speaker, the late speaker. And he would be the cousin of a former premier, and a gentleman sitting right in front of me now. And G.A. Williams, Percy Vincent, whose late widow put my first club in my hand, and Harry Webb. And of course, that's important. That happened in 1950, so 75 years, 55 years. And you know, it didn't just start there, because before Ocean View, there was the Devonshire Golf Links that was there in the 1800s. And it's important that we know from whence we got the opportunity to showcase to ourselves to the world, because we've been showcasing ourselves in the world for well over a century in golf and in sailing and in other sports in Bermuda. I've been doing a lot of research and tell persons that the origins of the United States Golf Association was taking place right in here in this country, with the gentleman that designed Mid-Ocean Club, Charles Blair McDonald, and his understudies, Seth Rayner and Charles Banks, and Devereaux Emmett, who may have worked for him for a spell. Those origins were happening right in Bermuda in the 1800s. Why? Because the British military transported golf to Bermuda. The same golf that we're now going up there and celebrating was being celebrated over 100 years ago. And in the 1800s, when we had 4 military golf courses in Ireland, at Admiralty House, at Prospect up at Ocean View, and down in St. George's, in the 1900s, when golf started to grow in the United States, at Somerset Hills and places like that. Someone says, why are you wearing a Somerset Hills hat? Nothing to do with Somerset Cricket Club. Everything to do with the origins of Bermuda golf in the United States was being transported from the United Kingdom and coming through Bermuda and going to Canada. Those are the relationships what I've envisioned us building future tourism on too. Because when people know the connections and the relationships that already take place in Montreal, Bermuda Air flies to Montreal now. When I went to Castle Harbor, there were pictures of Montreal, Richelieu Country Club, Lachute, Royal Quebec, Royal Montreal, Beaconsfield, all those clubs already at Castle Harbor from an event that we used to host in 1963. The relationships that took place in Bermuda. I talk fondly about Bias. I talk fondly about St. George's Hotel. Those were courses in the 1920s designed by Devereux Emmett. He designed 6 golf courses in Bermuda between 1921 and 1931. Everybody talks about mid-ocean. They talk about Castle Harbor in 1931. But I can tell you what. You know what was happening between 1921 and 1931? The same thing that was happening up at Port Royal last week. There was a lot of golf going on. Well, there was a lot of socializing going on. A lot of people liking a lot of dark and stormy. Prohibition was taking place in the United States between 1921 and 31. And we built about 8 golf courses, and Devereux Emmett built them all, built the majority of them. And he designed courses like Congressional and other courses that hosted U.S. Opens. And what I'm saying is, as we start celebrating our history, Louis Raphael Kidd Corbin, George Lowe, Earl Lowe, Bill Pitt, Herman Tushy Bascom, Leonard Jones, Toppy Waters, and these persons. There are people out there that are researching Bermuda, fascinated with Bermuda. And I felt duty bound in celebrating the vision of Dr. Braun to say that we should be honoring him for his work in golf. But at the same time, we should be honoring Reggie Tucker, George Woodman, Hubert Smith, Frankie Raban, Walter King, Eardley Jones, and persons like that, Herman Tushy Bassett. It's important. And we'll see the roadmap of how Bermuda, because if we can see the benefit of having a trail, there are people who will visit Bermuda just to walk, just to convalesce. I heard people say, oh, only a small percentage of people. I can tell you what, people that live in golf communities around the world have the means to appreciate what we have to offer today. And between November and March and April in Bermuda, we have a lot of unsold inventory. And so when it comes to tourism, and I love the fact that my Minister for Tourism, Transport, Culture, and Sport is all joined up, because all those things merge together. They're important. They work in tandem. So they're joined up again. And the last time they were joined up, great things emanated, because they were joined up. Transport and tourism was joined up, and Dr. Braun was the minister, and great things we're still benefiting from now. And finally, Mr. Speaker, and finally on this, I will just say, I will make it my hobby horse to encourage Bermuda to look to the water. A member from the opposition spoke about the roads, and we've all been impacted by family members dying on the roads. We all have. And it hurts. Hurts when you get that call. It hurts, especially for a mother. My mind casts back to 1983, probably one of the most talented, brightest Bermudians that I knew. You would know, Mr. Speaker, went to school with us. One of the best netball players. Daddy was a cup match captain. When I got that call that Sharon had died, it hurt. And that's no different from any member that gets that call. I'm saying that we need to get people off the roads, on the waters. When they're coming down Harbor Road and have an accident, and I go to the West more now because I have to go up there to ply my trade, I avoid 7:30 to 9 if I can. I'll leave at 6:30 just to be up that way. And I said, well, I'm stuck unless I go over to Newstead and take the ferry and go over to town. And I'm saying that because when it comes to transport, it's a mindset. And you're seeing far more. I see people overtaking to turn. You know, they just, and I drive like my Uncle Herman now. He was 68 when he used to drive me around. I drive slow, so they get fed up. In fact, the guy was coming to play golf. He says, "It's you." He walked in the pro shop. You're the one that held us up from down Collector's Hill all the way up to Belmont. It's you. You're the culprit. But the frustrations that are on the road are very reflective of the frustrations that's in our society. And I'm here to say, as one who grew up on and around the water, rowing a boat in Scawa, right? I didn't grow up rowing a boat in St. George's, rowing a boat in Scawa. I'm telling you, the water is the key. We need to get people on the ocean, and we need to be getting them to transport more to work on the water. That's my contribution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, does any other honorable member wish to speak?
Mr. Speaker.
MP Famous.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Good
Speaker.
afternoon to you.
Welcome back. Good afternoon, colleagues, and good afternoon, Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, I suspect everybody in this house has gotten a call or WhatsApp that says something like this. My landlord has given me notice, and I can't find anywhere to stay, anywhere affordable. Mr. Speaker, we're living in a time in Bermuda that two things are happening. People are having to move. That always happens, but the rents that are being charged are astronomical at this point. But we have a media house in this country that likes to take liberty with the truth sometimes, Mr. Speaker. They always like to find a victim, somebody who's playing victim, to say they got kicked out, and people go on there and they blast the landlord. People are naming the landlord. And I've never once seen that media house ever go and talk to a landlord to find out what the story is. Mr. Speaker, as someone, I suspect you are a landlord as well. People are asked to move for several reasons. Number one, they ain't paying. Number two, the property might have got sold. Number three, property might have got foreclosed because they weren't paying and the landlord couldn't pay the mortgage. Unresolved issues, they could be paying, but the landlord just wants them out. Maybe the landlord has children, they want their children to move into that apartment. Or maybe, just maybe, Mr. Speaker, the landlord needs to renovate the apartment. So I say this to the people of Bermuda, that if and when you see people are being put out, landlords don't put people out just randomly. No one cuts off customers, clients, or well-paying clients for no reason. It's got to be a reason. But let me go a little bit further in a short time, Mr. Speaker. Part of the problem, Mr. Speaker, is we have a generation now that most likely will never be landlords. Right? That's the reality. It's a number of reasons. Costs are high, right? But also accountability. People are spending their money on silliness. They're not prepared to sacrifice. Families are not working together like they used to. So the net result is, if you're not got a house by the age of 40, you're most likely never going to have a house unless somebody's going to leave your house. You are going to be a tenant forever. That is almost the guaranteed reality in this country. Despite whatever the Bermuda Housing Corporation is doing, we cannot provide housing for everybody. It's like literally impossible. So I say, transitioning, Mr. Speaker, I say to the young people who are 25, just starting their careers, save every dollar you can. The price of housing, despite whatever Minister Lightbourne is doing to bring down the cost of living, the price of housing is going up. The price of materials in America is going up before it even reaches her and they get that discount on it. This is the reality that we have to tell our young people. Put down the new cars,
Don't worry about the trips. Save your money for down payment. The banks look at your spending habits. Everybody uses card now, so they know exactly what you spent money on. When you're going for that loan or that mortgage, if they see you hardly save money, you're not gonna get any. You're not getting the mortgage. Even if you got the down payment, you're probably not gonna get the mortgage. So you see, Mr. Speaker, because even when you're a homeowner, you got to deal with increased mortgage rates, fluctuating mortgage rates. You got to deal with maintenance fees. The other day, I hired somebody to just trim some palm trees. A landscape was getting $55 an hour now. One of my tenants called me, the water heater's going. That was $1,000. All right. This is going, that's going. Every week I'm spending out all this money. But the point I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, if you make it to be a homeowner, learn some skill or the other. Because if you don't learn a skill, I guarantee you will be paying out of the, well, you know what I mean. Yeah, the yin yang, right? Learn how to paint. Learn to do some tiling. Learn something, because if you want to maintain that property to a decent standard, it's either you're going to put in the labor or you're going to pay somebody to put in the labor. So I say again to the media, to the people, right? There's always more to the story that when someone is put out, right? No one wants to be put out, but when they're put out, it's got to be more to the story than that. And there are landlords who have given people notice, right? Not getting paid the rent, giving people notice, and it's still a journey before that person's even out. So by the time you look, the landlord could have missed out on 6 months to a year of rent. They're now behind with the bank and liable for foreclosure. These are the things that we have to be told the whole truth. Now, making a quick transition, Mr. Speaker, to something that the honorable member from C12 said. We as men, especially us as black men, we have a problem with going to our doctor for whatever reason. And by the time you go to the doctor's telling you, if you would have came 6 months earlier, it could have helped you out, but you better go check chipper. All right? Mr. Speaker, no, in all sincerity, this year I've been to funerals to 2 persons. One I was in the army with, one I went Barclay with, both my age. Could they have been prevented? I don't know, but the point is they're going. So I say to my fellow, especially younger MPs in there, get yourselves checked, right? Don't be afraid to go to the doctor. You're not necessarily got to tell the whole world, right? Check for prostrate, as Honorable Diallo has made himself available to talk to that journey to others. Check for diabetes, because most of us with melanin is going to get diabetes. And some before. Ladies, please get your mammograms. So, Mr. Speaker, in closing, I want to wish you a happy Sabbath. And again, to our young people, save your money. It's not getting cheaper. Thank you.
Thank you, member. Does any other member wish to make a contribution today? It seems like none. Thank you, members, for your full contribution today. And I trust that everyone have a nice weekend. And we'll see you back here on the first Friday in December. It's at the 5th, is it? On the 5th of December. With that, the House now stands adjourned.